Hey folks, welcome, good evening to you all wherever you're listening from. Welcome to another money space with me, Kalu Aja. Of course, on this space, we're talking money, the economy, and personal finance. We have a goal to make it personal to you so that makes you a better investor, understand your money better, and you're able to invest, in a more with more information, as it were, right? So, I mean, this is the end of January, as it were. So, of course, we want to do a review of the month that has gone by, what has happened in the markets in Nigeria, Canada, and of course the UK, where we have most of the Nigerian diaspora, right? But of course, it gives you also a sense of what's happening in the global economy. We'll do Nigeria, US, UK, and Britain, right? And of course, we've got a great guest here, Lumide. Like you guys know Lumide. I'm going to make him introduce himself, but again, he's going to give us that behind the scenes numbers, right? What's going on in these economies and how that affects you as a Nigerian in Nigeria. So, I want to sort of link all of them together, right? I want to link all that together so that gives you more information. So, we're going to just have a discussion. And again, just a caveat before we start, this is all educational. Nothing here should be taken as financial advice. We're not financial advisors. We're just having a talk, educational talk on social media. So don't rely on this as advice. Always speak to your advisor before you make any decisions. And stocks are very, very risky. With that disclaimer made, Olumide, hi. You want to unmute and just say hi to our guests? Hey, Olumide. I think you're still muted. While he gets ready, guys. So, I mean, the big news, before we get into the individual discussion, the big news, of course, guys, is the tariffs. I don't know how that's going to affect you as a Nigerian if you invest in Nigeria, but the big news out there is the tariffs. I'm looking at the US markets right now. Everything looks, for now, on pre market, sort of like the market is a bit down. NASDAQ is down. Um, Let me see. Let me give you the numbers. Dow is down about nearly a percentage point. S&P down about 50.50. Nasdaq down about 0.28. So the market for now is sort of maybe reacting, or just looking at what's happening with the tariffs that the U.S. has placed on Mexico and Canada. And if you're just following or just waking up, the U.S. has placed a 25% tariff on all exports from Canada and Mexico, the two largest trading partners, as an extra 10% tariff placed on China. Now, who pays for us is irrelevant. For us, what matters is how does it affect your portfolio and your investment. Prices are going to go up, yes, across the board when you increase tariffs. But ultimately, what happens to your portfolio? The companies that are exposed to your portfolio, are they going to drag you down? Should you sell? Should you buy? I would say best case scenario for you guys is not to take any drastic action. You want to watch. You don't want to just react to the news you're hearing right now. If you open up the TV or the newspaper, you're going to see tariffs, prices going up, doomsday. You do not want to react based on that information. You want to see how things play out. Again, if you're invested in the index sort of takes away the losers from your portfolio. If you're doing active trading, again, you want to watch and see where this goes. I still believe this is all in negotiation tactics. The real target is China. The US trying to force Mexico and China to the negotiating table to extract more concessions on rule of origin rules or rule of origin rules. Just as say that when you manufacture in say Canada or Mexico and you have Chinese inputs and they can tax you more, things like that. So don't rush, don't take any drastic decision to sell or buy based on what you're seeing right now. Olumide, hi. Can you speak now?
Yeah, okay, Carl. Good
Hey,
evening.
hey. How you doing?
Uh,
Welcome.
yeah, it's a pleasure joining your space. Which we've been doing for so many years. So for those that don't really know me, my name is Lundi Additional. A financial market writer. I have a background in financial trading. I worked with different proprietary hedge funds in the United States before venturing into writing. So I write for different media firms. I also have MDs with some financial institutions in terms of newsletter and breaking down content for their account. So it's really been very parabolic. Parabolic simply means the market has been dramatic. But I think for those that have been following Carlo for a while, like especially the space, there are a lot of things we discussed that came to pass. There are a lot of things we will not come to pass, and there are a lot of things happening right now. So yeah, Carlo, that's just the summary of the market.
All right, where do you want to start? Do you want to do Nigeria, the UK, Canada, the US? Where do you want to start? Of the overview of what's happening in the world right now.
I think because we're Nigerians, but I think we should start from the most liquid markets and the most efficient, the United States. I think we should look at that and a little bit about the crypto. So let me just start a little about the crypto because we're covering all markets, right? So we have a pro-crypto president in power. We have someone that really spoke extensively about the crypto industry, and that really added. We saw that this is until we've not seen a Republican president getting all the swing states, the popular vote, until I think last time was Ronald Reagan, and he actually won California. So he's become popular among different streams, and he's already doing all the things he said he was going to do. At least he has done most. He signed executive orders. But I think looking at it from the market perspective, while you could look at it fundamentally that it's been positive in the crypto market, I think technically from market perspective it's been negative, and the reason is simple. I think Kali initiated that buy. I remember days before Trump was sworn in, I saw the Carlos tweet when he tweeted about Trump's meme coin, and I quickly checked it on my Phantom wallet, and I bought some, I think around 7, 8. And the reason why I bought was that you really see Kali talk about meme coins and the fact that the president was name and integrity was built on that utility. I felt like, well, this is one time opportunity, and while that really attracted so much attention, it knocked liquidity out of the meme space, and you could see that other coins were affected. While Bitcoin was able to stay floated, at some hit 109,000 at the closure of Joe Biden, and we saw the fact that the market kept on rallying. XRP was going forward. The Doge, Tether was becoming very profitable. They disclosed the profit of 13 billion in 2024. So it's been exciting for the crypto industry. But, the Trump token was more like a Trojan horse, like I said earlier, because it mopped out liquidity from the meme space. And we saw that the market now started cooling off. Then we saw tariffs, which Carlos spoke about, which I would not want to talk extensively about. But in the space right now, you see that Bitcoin dropped below the 100,000 mark because of the tariff issue. The market is uncertainty. We see that the fact that Ethereum also dropped below the psychological 3,000 mark, despite the fact that there was report BlackRock bought some couple of millions of that token. But the truth of the matter is that Bitcoin has had a place in traditional finance. It's sitting well. BlackRock, the world's biggest asset manager with about 12 trillion under asset management, has 50 billion exposure through ETF. So it's an asset we cannot longer ignore. But the problem we have in the space is that we have so many meme coins, we have so many non-functional coins, we have so many scams, so many Wild West scenarios. So it makes it difficult for investors to really hold on to these coins and make an alpha. So, Carlo, that's just a summary of the crypto market.
Yeah, well, let's go deeper into the US market. I'm looking at the numbers right now. So let me give you a lay of the land, right? Stocks are down. Dow Jones Industrial Average is down. Nasdaq is down. S&P is down. Gold and oil, which are your commodities, your run to safety, especially gold. Gold is unchanged, it's flat. Oil is unchanged, it's flat. But look at what's going on now. The US dollar has gone up. US bonds have gone up. The VIX, which is the fear index, where people run to when there's, or how we measure fear or risk, has gone up. So the market is saying, because of the tariffs, because of the uncertainty in the market, we're going to go buy dollar, we're going to sell stocks, we're going to go buy bonds. We're a bit frightened. We're going to watch and see. That's what the market in the US is saying right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you, Carlo. If you look at the year-to-date performance of commodities, gold is on top. Whether the futures or spot, it has a year-to-date return of about 7%. Silver also coming. Sorry, it has a year-to-date of 7.35. Silver also moving around 10%. No, silver is industrial and also has that hedging capability. But gold is preferably used, and it has buying interest from central banks. So investors don't ignore the asset, despite the importance Bitcoin is playing. But I think Bitcoin got watered down by European Central Bank, saying that they don't see that asset, that it doesn't qualify for reserve. So gold really has that advantage. And just like you said, Carlo, if you look at metals, I think strong demand from China also help. But surprisingly, Carlo, if you look at the least performing agriculture, and we are looking at cocoa, this year hasn't been so exceptional like what we saw last year. Coffee is up because of the tariff issues that we're having. I heard that at some point he even threatened Colombia, because Colombia is a strong exporter of cocoa to the United States. So there was a time the price elevated. So cocoa is about 80% up. But Carl, when you look at what the commodity market is saying and what Trump is saying, I think investors are pricing in that tariff will really affect crops that a lot of Americans use. America is a very big country, but America doesn't produce all the crops. America is the big player in corn, soya, but they still got to bring in coffee, they still got to bring in rice, they still got to bring in cocoa. So investors are saying that, well, these trade tariffs might really hike up inflation. Carlo, like we used to say, the consumer is the one that will pay the point. So that might trigger inflationary pressure and also elevate price. But I think it's an advantage for someone like Dangote Refinery, because if you look at the fact that America is the largest exporter of crude, but they also take in heavy kind of crude from Canada for their refiners and export in form of diesel and other gasoline products. I think it's going to support margins for Dangote, and that was why I was trying to do the analysis, because I saw it on Reuters when it was being written that Asian European refineries, and I included Dangote, will likely benefit. But Carlo, just like we really retreated, it seems investors are taking risk off the table, and it looks like the market cycle is saying that we are at the peak.
Okay, let's talk again about Bitcoin, because you mentioned it in passing. There's a chart I'm going to share now. This is U.S. state-by-state race for Bitcoin research. There are about 13 states here, from Arizona to Florida to New Hampshire to Pennsylvania. These are blue states, red states, all trying to pass what we call the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve. I think Arizona is the one ahead now. I think their House and Senate have the bill is in the House and Senate for approval. Once it's approved, it then goes to be signed into law by the governor. So why I'm bringing this up is that if this happens, that means that clearly Bitcoin 500,000, 300,000 seems like a possibility, because that means these states are going to go buy this Bitcoin asset and hold as quote going to be sovereign wealth fund or something like that. So there's going to be more demand, plus the FOMO effect, I don't want to lose out, would push Bitcoin up. What's your take on this? I'm just sharing this now on my space now, on my TL now.
Can you, just like you rightly alluded, fundamentally you're on spot. You're spot on. But you see, the problem is that market don't really move in a straight line. And if you look at what's happening right now, the fact that Bitcoin is already approaching the 95,000 support, despite the 90 you mentioned, tells you that there are hidden concerns. So first, we feel that the markets are at their peak, like I said earlier, and the reasons are not far-fetched. The rise of Bitcoin from November to January was kind of fast. Bitcoin rose by more than 40%. You look at many coins like XRP, rose by more than 200%. So at some point, we expect a market correction for fresh inflow of capital and also regulation to really take some time. Don't forget that US is built by a strong institution. No matter how powerful Donald Trump is, it really takes a lot of processes, particularly the fact that Joe Biden still has some inputs in the federal judges appointed. So you look at cases like XRP, where we're having battles still going in, and you also look at the fact that certain protocols like Pump Fund, that the market for meme production is under crossfire, legal crossfires for producing unregistered security. So, Carlo, while you bring in those exciting narratives, the truth is that the key difference here is with traditional finance buying into it. Yes, you could say that yes, America is the world's largest economy, biggest liquidity provider, but what I think will really happen is that we might not see that run that a lot of people are envisaging. I don't see Bitcoin hitting 1M or 500,000 under President Trump's administration, and the reason is not far-fetched. First, like I said, the economy is overheated. There's still a lot. The economy, global economy, which Ngozi Uwela spoke about, looks fragmented. That doesn't support Bitcoin narrative. And the fact that global central banks, particularly the Europeans and the Chinese, have not seen a case for Bitcoin, tells you that despite the fact that Donald Trump is really positive about, we've not really seen how that will come to play, because Donald Trump also spoke about the fact that he wants to have a sovereign wealth fund, just like the Dubai's, UAE, the Norwegians, just to show up capital. He has already threatened BRICS that anybody that tries to make it, so we don't see Bitcoin being a form of payment. And you said something one time on Twitter that people need to understand that the US interest definitely supersedes the interest in the crypto market. The US interest, the dollar, I don't see it coming second line. So while it will be a positive liquidity provider, I think what will really make much more difference is how BlackRock Bitcoin ETFs playing, because they've already put $50 billion into the market.
All right. So again, just last one on this Bitcoin crypto thing, because it's very interesting to me. So number one, the president's own app, the president's Truth Social that he owns, the president of the United States, is now going to FI, into financial services. So Musk is also going into X Money. So those two guys are sort of telegraphing what's going to happen. The president is saying his own app would allow you to do FI. Musk is saying I'm going to do X Money. Those to me look like bullish sentiments. But again, I'm just reading now that El Salvador, as we know, has been one of the biggest bullish nations on crypto. They've just revoked Bitcoin's legal status. So Bitcoin is no longer legal status in El Salvador because of the IMF. IMF put pressure on them. They have to borrow money, and so they had to step down and say you can use Bitcoin, but it's not no longer legal tender. Legal tender simply means you can use Bitcoin to settle debt. So you can still use Bitcoin, but it's not legally required to settle debt. So just
IMF exactly. I know the West control IMF. So you look at the politics behind. I think Trump is aware that yes, the young population really likes crypto. I think he's trying to create a balance, because you look at his executive order, it was more relaxed. A lot of people were expecting that from day one there was going to be announcement of Bitcoin strategic reserve. He set up through the U.S. Congress committee to work on analysis. But Kalu, I can honestly tell you that by the time that committee is ready, we don't see Bitcoin at 80 to 85,000. We might be lucky.
Interesting. Okay. So I want to go to UK next, but let me just get Kunle and Ikechukwu there, in case they want to have something to say. Kunle, what's on your mind?
Good evening. What it is? I mean, there was a season when 4 5 years ago.
Kunle, could you speak up a bit? I'm so sorry.
Wait, let me remove this. I think it's the earpiece.
I can't hear you.
Yeah, he said you should move in something. Kunle, go ahead.
Is it better?
Yes, it is. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, is it better now?
Yes, it is. Definitely.
Yes. A while ago, about 4 5 years ago, I was thinking to myself that this Bitcoin business, I thought, it shouldn't ever, cost more than 1 ounce of gold. That was my foolish analysis at that time. And then it went to $60,000.
Exactly.
But what it is now, what's going to happen next year? I think everyone must recall that Elon Musk has put about, was it $1 or $2 billion of his own money in Bitcoin? I'm speaking only about Bitcoin. You see all these XRP, all these Dogecoin, I know some of those ones, but Bitcoin has a credibility that none of the others have. So it's going to go up. Like you said, that $500,000 is very possible. I see that clearly. That's what I would say.
Yeah, again, you see, Kunle, the thing is this, right? I bought Bitcoin through my bank. A year ago, you could not do that in America. So now SEC has ETFs that you can buy Bitcoin through your bank. You can go to and buy Bitcoin in America. So the point is that like you said, Bitcoin alone, we're just talking about Bitcoin. It seems that Americans want to say, okay, we're going to allow this one into the big boys club. The rest, maybe not. But this one, we might allow in as an alternative asset and see what will come from it. I mean, Donald Trump signed an order, right? He says he orders his administration to evaluate the potential for a national digital asset stockpile. So Trump,
it was even
signed
in his
that,
inaugural
right?
speech.
Yeah.
He mentioned it in his inaugural speech, if you recall. He said his administration is going to be a crypto administration.
So they want to look at it. He said they want to look at it and see. So again, I'm not asking you guys to go buy Bitcoin, but I'm just saying.
Okay, but can look at this. Look at this scenario. Who are the biggest owners of Bitcoin? Like, you look at market supply, because you see, like I used to say, the price is in the market. You see, Bitcoin's rise. If you look at Bitcoin's rise, 100,000 was because Trump won the election, right? Because Trump won the election. Because after the election, Bitcoin was from the 65,000, 65, 67 to almost 109, above 109.
Yeah.
And now it plummeted to the 96, 97. Now, what I'm trying to tell you is that the fundamentals around the crypto market hasn't really changed that much. The biggest players in the Bitcoin space are MicroStrategy has about 414,000 Bitcoins. BlackRock has 50 billion worth of Bitcoin. US government has Bitcoin. UK government has Bitcoin. Then we have about 20 Bitcoin wallets that has 1 billion Bitcoin. So you see the argument.
Did you say BlackRock? BlackRock has how much? BlackRock has how much?
$50 billion exposure through ETFs, through spot ETFs. Yeah. So, but you see, this is the problem, Carl, and that was why I was listening to Christine Lagarde, the ECB lady. She spoke about, you see, when you want to make something reserve, when you want to make something, it must be liquid. It must be asset. Bitcoin is going to be like the digital gold. It's not going to be something that people expect, like staple coins where you're going to be reserved, because people use it to store. It's a store of value, and that was why it became a point of discussion at Davos. The reason I'm bringing this to you is that, yes, we can argue about the acceptance, but the truth of the matter is that very few entities own a large chunk, because now we have 20 Bitcoin wallets that has over 1 billion worth of Bitcoin. What is Bitcoin market value? About 1.9 trillion. When you remove MicroStrategy, when you remove BlackRock, when you remove Chinese government, US government, UK government, Japanese entities, you really have fragmented. And don't forget that some people have lost Bitcoin. About the argument is about 4 million has been lost forever, because when the wallets, there was someone that lost his wallet in the refuse dump. There are a lot of popular people like that. So it makes it more concentrated. But my point here is that it really is up to what Donald Trump's make use of Bitcoin. If Bitcoin becomes the main strategic reserve, which I personally think is unlikely, because Trump is pro-American, and I think the dollar, like as much like with this brings, I think it's going to make gold, Bitcoin more like gold. So it's only going to be based on what really happens in the economy. If appetite for risk is high under Trump presidency, yes, Bitcoin will do well. But if the market tightens like the way we are seeing, Bitcoin will not do as well as people expect. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, let me just show this, and this is last curveball at you. You know, gold in the economy is not a lot. There's not a lot of gold that has been mined from the beginning of time till today. Not a lot of gold. But if you want to buy gold today, you can buy the physical gold. You go to Dubai, buy the gold through an ATM, or you can buy the paper. Nigeria had an ETF that was selling gold. Gold, was it what new gold ETF? Or there are lots of paper that you can buy that is not really gold, but they say it is linked to gold. So you buy that paper, you get exposure to gold. Gold moving up, gold coming down. Can that happen to Bitcoin, where we're going to say synthetic Bitcoin, where someone's going to say...
We have Bitcoin based on Ethereum on smart contract. We have if you for someone like you, for example, that loves ETFs, you can, rather than owning Bitcoin through your wallet, you can go through BlackRock and buy. In fact, a lot of people I know made a lot of money through BlackRock, because the way BlackRock arranged that contract, it was quite easy and accessible, and that was why there was so much liquidity in the Bitcoin space, because the infusion of traditional finance in that market created that option.
So doesn't that make it like doesn't that counter the argument that there's no liquidity because 50 billion is going to be available?
Yeah, there's liquidity in Bitcoin market, Carlo. There's liquidity. That's why we argue that Bitcoin is really the crypto market, because if you look at the dominance level of Bitcoin in the crypto market, Carlo, it's close to 50%.
Okay.
You know, or if not more than I have not checked now. But it's like there are many crypto assets, but Bitcoin is the main. But the problem here is that, you know, when the economy is tightening, Bitcoin, unlike gold, gold has hit all-time highs. Like if you look at gold, it's been going. Bitcoin is cooling and waiting for direction, and also it has a positive correlation with tech stocks like Nvidia and Coinbase.
Gotcha. Okay, let's move on. Let me get Ikechukwu to ask his question, and then Tukule, you had a follow up on that?
Well, I don't know to put it in there that you see, the US dollar, like it or not, the American government, they will never be able to pay back $35 trillion.
It's not going to be paid back. That is not going to be paid back. It's never. It can't. It can't be paid back. It's just a number. Yeah.
So it's a matter of time. If the Japanese government and the Chinese government unanimously agree and they begin to sell their holdings, because now them be.
But that also can't happen, Kule. That also can happen.
They say they are not taking that thing again, and US dollar collapses overnight. It will be Bitcoin.
Let's talk.
So that's the trigger event.
Let's talk.
Let's put that in.
Let's talk about currencies just a little bit. Just a little bit of currencies. The reason why China and Japan buy dollars is because they want to keep their currencies cheap. Because China and Japan export so much, if they simply allow the exports to drive the value of their currencies to become very, very high, so the yen and the yuan will be very, very expensive, which then means that we can't buy Toyota cars, we can't buy Sony TVs. So they then buy dollars to reduce the price of their currency. Just like the way when Nigeria wants to make the Naira go up, what do? We sell dollar to BDC. Meaning what? We buy Naira. So the Naira goes up. Whatever you sell, the price goes down. So same thing with Japan and China. If they want to make their yen go down, what do? They buy dollars, meaning that they are selling yen. So until those countries no longer export, China today can't do that export. They have to keep on buying dollar. So for now, the dollar is not going anywhere. Anyone did de-dollarization, it's not going anywhere. It's there.
No, but comment on what the BRICS were trying to do at one point. They were trying to create an Eastern axis to rival the World Bank.
All they can do is to say, and I've written about this, right? Ethiopia is in BRICS. Let's say Nigeria joined BRICS, and Nigeria wants to import something from China. What they can do is that they can say Nigeria can use Ethiopian birr to pay for goods from China, because we're going to have one central BRICS clearinghouse. So Nigeria will take Ethiopian currency. Nigeria can sell SIM cards to Ethiopia. Ethiopia pays with birr, and Nigeria would use that birr to import things from China because we are in a clearinghouse. So that's a threat that the US is seeing, that Trump is saying he's not going to allow. So every nation has got to ask itself a question, even Ethiopia. Do you want to trade with BRICS currency, or do you want to trade with dollar? That's what they have to ask themselves. China has the Chinese yuan is not convertible. It's just started being convertible now. It's not everywhere. You don't see yuan on the streets of Lagos. So if the US cuts you off from the international trading mechanism, it's very difficult. How do you pay for your Boeing spare parts? Look at it did to Russia.
And just to add up what you said, I think a lot of people tend to overhype this BRICS currency thing, because even if you look at the currency transaction of each country, if you look at it, the European Union seems to be more of a threat than BRICS. And I'll explain why. The argument is that if you combine the economies of these countries, yes, it almost rivals the West, if not surpass in terms of future PP. But the reality is that on ground, institutions, the currencies are not just built on economies, they are built on pipelines, institutions that take so many years. So just like I rightly alluded, the trust, the mechanism. If you look at the Indian rupee, it's one of the worst performing currencies in the world. If you look at the Chinese yuan, very unreliable currency to hold. If you look, despite the fact that they have more than $3 trillion, over $3 trillion in US debt. So what I'm really trying to tell you is that the US currency is still the world reserve, and it still has a lot of holding power. The problem BRICS have with the US dollar is more political. The fact that the US weaponized it against the Russians, and they felt that, this really need to be more of a tit of tat. A popular president, Donald Trump, has won. But I think even the one is symbolic, because the truth of the matter is that how many countries can really trade away from the US dollar? Because the world's largest financial market is the US economy. If the US financial market, the biggest financial market is the US Treasury market. More than a third of financial transactions go through the FX, dollar, and the US debt market. So it's really almost impossible. At least in the next 3 decades, we should even be having this conversation. And that's why I tell people that the Naira has the problem, the fact that the United States can print and pay back their debt, the Naira cannot. And the fact that the United States debt is going out of proportion, to me, I think people are worrying beyond. It's fair to complain the fact that government spending is causing inflation, but the truth is that America is a unique country, and I'll tell you why. If you look at the debt credibility, Norway has a better debt profile than the United States, but I will not keep my currency in the krona. I will not keep my currency in the Norwegian currency. I will keep my just in the dollar. Why? Because the dollar is more liquid, the reserve, the trust. So the US is
only this because the US has got aircraft carriers that can bomb people that want to try you. That's really it. Because I mean, again, Kunle, let's look at what it's happening today. Like what Olumide is saying today, stocks are down, gold is flat. The US dollar is up. US dollar denominated bonds are up. Euro to US is down. Just to be clear, the euro is down. The dollar is up. Why? There's fear. So when there's fear, what happens? People run to the dollar. Look at the currencies now. Euro is down. Yen is down. British pound is down. Even Australia is down. That's supposed to be the safe haven is down. What's up? USD index. So once there's fear, people run to the US. I mean, it's just how it is. For now, maybe in 100 years ago or so, it was the British pound, right? When there was fear, people run to the British pound. Before British pound, it was the Spanish guys, it was the Portuguese guys, Empires come, empires go. But for now, the empire, is the US. For now, China will take over. Maybe, I don't know when, but China will take over eventually, but not now, I guess. Let's get Ikechukwu to speak. Then Olumide and I will go to UK. Olumide, did you know Google this, the best performing UK stock right now? It has a special meaning to Nigerians. Ikechukwu, what's on your mind? Did you have a question? Ikechukwu? All right, Ikechukwu is not, yeah.
I'm around. Good evening.
How you doing? Good evening.
I'm fine. I don't really have a question. I wanted to speak on the topic on mine about Bitcoin. It's like he invested in Bitcoin. Maybe that's why you're so interested in that before. So I support what Mr. Adesina has been talking about. This Bitcoin, despite what the US government says, despite what they have been saying, supporting it, when you look at the fundamentals, like you said, the technicals, you see that Bitcoin is going down. And all these things, they run in circle. We are in the bull run now. So the bull run basically don't even stay long. You see? So Bitcoin, like he said, once it crosses that $93,000 level, is going deeper, it's going down. It has been in bull run since last year. Since last year, around, that should be March. Yeah, February, March. So all these things, they run in circle. One, is been in bull run for long. Two, and it has been overbought. That's the truth. So as it has been overbought, market needs to correct. All these things, it needs to correct. Just like Mr. Adesina said. I have nothing I want to say on NASDAQ. Just like Bitcoin as well. NASDAQ has been overbought. So it might take like a week or 2 weeks before it will It might probably pass the all-time high when you are analyzing on the weekly basis around 21,815. So now is not even the best time also to invest in Nasdaq. It's better you just leave it. Once it crosses that threshold, it will surely retrace. Then talking about oil, oil is going to boom very soon. As in,
where are you basing? Where are you basing? This is I hear you doing. Is this technical analysis you're doing? Like technical analysis? That's what you're really doing on supports, resistance. Is that what you're doing?
Yes, I'm talking about the fundamentals, because when you are talking, the fundamentals shows how people are reacting to the market. It's not what they say, but how they react. There are some of these top level men, when they tell you to buy, it's better you sell. And when they tell you to sell, it's better you buy. So they will tell you anything they want you to feel, and they go and do the other way around. But the fundamentals, the technicals, the fundamental tells you exactly how people are reacting to the market. Like Mr. Adesina said, when you check the chart, you see that Bitcoin is going down. And once it crosses that threshold of 93,000, you might meet it around 80 something or lower.
So I said,
it might take like 2-3 years.
Just want to clarify. So
before it booms again. So the problem is that people always want to buy Bitcoin at the bull run.
I hear
that's very, very.
So you could just
market analysis.
What's your take for Bitcoin this week? You think it's gonna? Give me a number. Give me an entry price if you can.
Okay, my take is now is a very bad time to buy Bitcoin. Buy when it's at 66,000 if you can.
66,000.
Be patient enough. Buy when it's 67,000, but still, it depends on the kind of money that the person has. There are people that can buy; they have the money, they can wait for 10 years. But there are people that. So
the price now is 97,000. You say it's going to go down to 66. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, but it will take some time.
What time? How long?
You see. You can't predict this market. You know how they are.
So what are you saying now?
Bitcoin. What I'm saying in advance is my own suggestion. Don't invest in Bitcoin for now. Forget what Trump is doing.
Okay, so when should we invest? We should invest when it's 66,000.
Yes, around that threshold. That's very a good.
So it's gonna lose 30,000 for us to invest. Okay, no problem. Okay, I hear you. Yes. Or more. Okay, that's fine. Point taken. Olumide, let's go to the UK market, right? I pulled up the UK market for you, and our best performing stock in the UK market is Airtel. Airtel Africa. So just overall, what's your take on the UK? They haven't really. They're not in this. They are in Brexit, so they're not part of this tariff issue, and they are like a strategic partner to the US in terms of their brothers and sisters. But the Labour government in the UK and the Republicans in the US do not see eye to eye. I mean, the Labour Party, they had folks before the election, they were literally sending people to America to go campaign for Biden. And they were on Twitter, of course everyone abuses Trump, calling out Trump. And now Trump is the president. They've tried to mend fences. Elon Musk and the UK government are at loggerheads. Elon Musk is the key advisor to President Trump. So what's your take? The politics and the economy of it. Is UK, this Brexit island that is just there, is it really a good place to invest?
Carlo, looking at the UK stock market, the FTSE 100, that's the index that makes up the most liquid or the blue chip stocks in companies in UK. One would say that it's been a good year. If you look at it, at least more than half of the index component are in green. So it tells you that buying pressure, despite the concerns you make, looking at the good side. Now, the fact that the British pound is undervalued also has really brought in inflow of capital into that important economy. Don't forget that the most important market in terms of foreign exchange is the UK market because of the time zone, the Greenwich Meridian. So a lot of banks still trade in that space despite the pre-exit. But the concern you raised, I think from a political point, I think it's already weighed on the British pound. When you look at Rishi Sunak, when he came in, the pound was even going at one point looking to break above the 1.3 barrier. Right now, we look at it right now. It shows that there's been a lot of profit taking and there's been lack of confidence in the market based on the fact that the Labour Party led government has not been able to show concrete ways of managing the economy. They're looking at taxing, they're looking at tightening immigration. At the same time, they want to play the manifesto of being middle class, productive, support the population, and also tight. So it's not really holistic. But looking at it from the market, I would say that the UK stock market for me, it's like the advance of the Nigerian stock market. The reason is because if you are not treating certain popular UK stocks, you might also have liquidity problems, Carlo, to be honest. I've had issues with that. And also the fact that I prefer the index, the FTSE index, so I use options or TFGs to get exposure in that. But I think interestingly for me, the UK, the banks, Shell has been outstanding. If you look at it, if you put Shell on a time frame of 5 years, we've really done well. Standard Chartered in the past year was incredible. I think the CEO Winters, I think he really did awesome. He really focusing on key market and selling off their non-functional assets, particularly to Access Bank. You recall that Access Bank at some point bought some of these assets. So Standard Chartered has been outstanding. Standard Chartered is a UK-based bank. A lot of people don't know that. They try to confuse it with Standard Bank, which is South Africa. Standard Chartered has done a 3% this year. I think he has more growth. He's even looking at bringing exposure to the crypto space. They've had some stakes in custodian service businesses, and their business in Asia is booming. Barclays used to be the Dojazi of UK banking. Well, it done better than Standard Chartered. Brought in a year-to-date brought in a 1 year return of about 100%. But the concern has been is losing business, is losing the American business. It's not been like the way it is before because the UK is becoming smaller. So I think while the prospects look brighter, I think this might not be a right time to buy in Carlo because if you look at the graph right now, I think the UK stock market is on heat. At one point it was at all-time high. Despite those concerns raised, and capital inflow has been on the steady rise. So I expect market corrections, but these stocks are really looking very good.
So it's like you like the UK, but not now.
I like the UK, but not now exactly because of the prices I've seen. Yeah.
All right. So what would you like Airtel Africa? You think it's a good buy for Airtel? If a Nigerian here is buying Airtel,
okay. This is not a recommendation. So I own Airtel Africa, but I have heavy exposure in MTN Nigeria, partly because MTN Nigeria is more liquid, it's easier, and itself more understanding. The stock Airtel Africa is a component of different countries. MTN Nigeria just focuses on Nigeria, MTN Nigeria, the one listed in the stock market, the one entity focused on Nigeria. Airtel Africa is a mixture of different, so I have to track in different composites and everything. Well, advantages Airtel Africa brings is that, Carlo, for example, it's listed in the Nigerian stock market and the UK stock market. So if you have the CBN clearance as you can always move your funds from Nigeria to UK, and that was why the UK Airtel Africa is Nigeria's most valuable stock, because investors also used to hedge, and the fact that it makes up a component of about 14 subsidiaries. So yeah, Airtel Africa definitely, but I have exposure. Will I buy more? No, I don't. I feel that it's really high. MTN would have been a better alternative, but remember we spoke about MTN at the start of the year, Carlo. If you had bought at that time, definitely 169 is much better than buying at 254 naira. So you already had 40%. So I'm not buying any of those, but those are good names,
All right, so,
for people that really want to look into.
yeah, dividend yield for Airtel Africa 4.5. So based on the pound that they're paying there, so if you buy it, you get 4.5. What's the risk-free rate in the UK right now? I'm just saying, just look at the numbers. I don't know. All right, just putting that out there. Let me get Araluchi Chooks. Arulachi. Sorry if I. Arulachi, how you doing? Do you have a question for Olumide as regards the UK market, or in the market, anything we talked about? You got the floor. What about Miss Chelsea, Evie Chelsea?
Hi, good evening. My name is Arulachi.
I apologize. Yeah.
You did get it right. Wonderful platform, by the way. I just saw it on my Twitter and decided to join, and it's been a pleasant experience.
Thank you.
So, my question is about the person who spoke about Bitcoins, because I'm a cryptocurrency trader, mostly focusing on Bitcoin and Ethereum. So he got me interested when he started talking about the possibility of buying Bitcoin at 66,000. So for me, I just wanted to contribute to the discussion and maybe ask a question at the end also. So I won't take much time. So the thing is this, I think Bitcoin, cryptocurrency did more of buy the hype and more of sell the fact. And Trump being president is fact now. So I'm seeing the cryptocurrency market go into a bear market, but more of a consolidation at first before the drops comes into place. But so far, what I've been seeing for the past few weeks is the consolidation, and mostly more of it leaning towards a downside for especially Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum seems to be showing a clearer picture of the downside than the Bitcoin is. But from what you've all said and what I've also been reading, there's no way Trump can fully back cryptocurrency as an alternative to the dollar right now. So that is not even going to come into play. And what people's expectation of what Trump is going to do to the crypto market is not going to come into full effect, because Trump is limited by the fact that the president of America does not have the sole power to make all the financial decisions for the country. So what can happen is that Trump is going to try to beat around the bush for longer, but the picture is going to become pretty clear very soon, and that is when we are going to see the drop happen. So it will not really be a good time to be buying into that dip, because it could actually get deeper than most people would expect. So on the 1 month time frame or weekly time frame, you see that the nearest support line is around 71,000. And if it breaks that level, then we are going to be seeing it going towards 44,000. Although the whales might not want to
Did you say 44,
allow it to drop.
44,000? As in
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. So it's a possibility. If it goes, it's going to plunge down. Because once it starts going down, people will panic, and then they'll start taking out their funds. And that's when it will plunge very sharply. So at first it will try to navigate the high prices around 96, 109. It will come down to around 88. It will travel those lengths for some time, but eventually it will drop. And that drop would scare off a lot of newbies that bought into the bullish markets without really knowing the fundamentals of the cryptocurrency space. And eventually what will happen is that those people would panic when they see their funds going down, and then they'll pull out. So when the panic comes in, then everything just goes sharply down. And most people who are big buyers would want to wait for it to drop to a very attractive level before they come in.
Interesting.
But I don't see 66 being the zone of attraction. I would more likely see it go towards 71,000 and then range in between 71,000 to 58,000 for some few months, and then before we see even a bigger plunge. But I am not expecting that if Bitcoin goes into a bear market, that we would see.
I got you. All right.
So for me, my question would be for him why he chose 66,000
I
as
don't.
a mark
That's.
coming.
I think the point is that you're bearish on that. That's fine. We don't want to go into the
Yes,
the
yes.
technical. But I hear you're bearish on that. That's fine. I mean that's interesting. I assume that
Yeah.
with the all the noise. I mean I'm surprised you guys don't factor in the that the president saying he's going to reward. Should we say the guys have voted for him? That's not going to push the thing up. But yeah, yeah,
Because I wish you had a phantom wallet now so you can understand what we are saying.
yeah.
If you check your phantom wallet now, like, there are some coins that's lost 80%, 90%. There are some coins that have lost 30%. I'm telling you, as in, like, if you go to the meme space, pop cards, you look at peanuts, you look at funny names, even the first lady token backed by the first lady has lost about, if you put 20 million in that last week, we have about 1.5 million right now. So it's just like a working corpse right now. But, it's not that we are not expecting a bullish, but the truth of the matter is that you have to look at the phase at which the market is. The market has surpassed the accumulation phase. The market has surpassed the consolidation phase. The market right now is looking at as if is looking more like redistribution and at the peak. So we expect at some point that wheels will start dumping, and the trade tariff is a major trigger because Kalu, if you understand, look at what is happening in the market. If you look at the chart, we are seeing gaps. Gaps tells you that there's panic. I won't be surprised if I see the Dow drop by 1,000 on Monday, and that's because Japanese are also the Japanese that is an ally of America is always also worried about why Trump is being a bully, because while Trump is on merit, all the things Trump is saying might be right for American interest, but the truth of the matter is that market hate uncertainty, and when markets hate uncertainty, there's panic. When there's panic, people don't use return on equity, you don't use any per share, you don't use parabolic stochastics, you don't use moving average. It doesn't work with panic. When people are scared, they run beyond how they should run, and that's why Warren Buffett used to say buy when the street is all, because at that time price looks like that. Look at Bitcoin right now. It's just it's like today looking like it was not going to break 100,000. It was going up and down, and all of a sudden it broke below 98,000. And after market tacticians will tell that after breaking 98,000, the sharks will taste 95. So Carlos, and we should not talk about crypto, but the truth of the matter is that Trump is carrying the market.
All right. So in essence, the summary of it, what I'm hearing is that we should just put ice water on this Bitcoin thing and just watch it. That's the summary I'm hearing.
Yes, there's a lot of uncertainty in the market.
All right, put ice water. Let me ask the last crypto question. I'm going to ask everything. What's in your mind? Yeah. Are you putting ice water on the crypto thing? Just to be clear.
Hi guys, pleasure to be here. So for me, I usually like to delineate the difference between Bitcoin and every other asset class or alternative coin as a real deal. And just like Olumide was saying, some of them that had zero intrinsic value or were just being pushed by guerrilla marketers. When push has come to shore, we have seen that really most of them were just vaporware or air tokens. And for me, for people who really understand what this space is about and understand the climbs, I would rather that people really look into this Bitcoin thing as a hedge against all of this red that we are seeing. Not just because of the technical aspect of it, but since this is somewhat a TradFi space, Larry Fink, Daddy Larry, like I like to call him, he's not even shilling Bitcoin more than myself globally as the next best thing for even sovereign wealth funds in this time of crisis and uncertainty as to where to park their reserves or their assets to hedge most of these bubbles. There's a lot more bubbles that might popped this year. Obviously, Bitcoin has somewhat shown to track these things in terms of liquidity. So when there's like contractions, you see that the Bitcoin price will probably drop like maybe 10%.
Yeah, but what I'm going to that, but I just want to close it out for the folks that listen. So is it a good time to buy? Are we holding? Buy, hold, or sell for BTC in particular?
This is the best time. There has never been a better time to buy Bitcoin below 7 figures, because if you look at what the Davos guys, Larry Fink, Fidelity guys are talking about, this thing is going to rip. So if you're very much below $1 million worth of Bitcoin, right now everybody's still talking about 100,000. I get it, but Larry Fink is saying, I'm promising the sovereign wealth fund guy that this ecosystem is going to take about 50 to 70 trillion. Because of the housing market, all of those liquidities, they're going to move it smoothly, obviously into Solana and all of those meme coins and whatever, but significant portion of those funds will go. So this is like the best time to purchase Bitcoin at 5 digits. I think it's 99 or something thousand. And Larry sees this as going to eat the real estate market and the bond market, and that's quite a long deal. But in terms of what he's looking at 50 trillion, and we are just hovering about 2 trillion in terms of market cap. So this is Larry, this is not me, and I'm happy Larry is literally carrying the torch, and the Fidelity heir, that lady over there that's supposed to take over the Fidelity hegemony, they really understand the technicals. They're trying to gobble up. I think for the past 5 days, they've been gobbling up over 100 million. And so if you're here, you're skeptical. I know people want to use MicroStrategy as a proxy. That's also fine if you've got a Roth or you don't have a means to buy it legally. There's some financial engineering that MicroStrategy guys are doing to enable people have Bitcoin exposure, even though you don't really have Bitcoin, just to hedge against all of the bloodbath.
Gotcha. All right, perfect. So we've gotten both sides of the argument. Guys that want to buy, guys that want to sell, guys that want to hold and hedge. And I think if you're listening, you've gotten a view of the land. If it's something you want to get into, right? Let's quickly do Canada and then let's come to Nigeria. What's your take on Canada? I mean, the main news there is these tariffs, right? That they are the ones that's what's going on with them, really. The tariffs. The stock market, nothing exciting there. I pulled it up before we started the space. Yeah, just nothing really exciting there to look. But I do look at all the top companies, all the composite guys, the top companies in the composites are all down. Everything is down. Only one company. So Bank of Montreal, Royal Bank of Canada, Shopify, TDT, all down. Only one company is up. Celestica is up. What does Celestica do? Celestica does supply chain, IT, and all that kind of stuff. So maybe. Yeah, I'm thinking.
So, but the honest truth is that the US is the most powerful country in the world, and you need to understand that when the US backs, despite the fact that we know sometimes the backing might look like a bully, the markets will definitely hit, and that was why when the Prime Minister retaliated, a lot of people felt that he was trying to save his face, and you understand why. So Canada, the US, Mexico, these are apart from China, these are the biggest trading partners. You know, Mexico and Canada, and most of Canada brings in electricity, brings in oil, brings in lumber, brings in, So Trump's complaint has been the fact that we protect you guys in terms of military, to safeguard the border, things like that. And look at the fact that Canada's deficit with them is expanding. So Trump feels like, oh, no, you have to. So he's thinking more like a businessman. But, Carlo, to be honest with you, I think one thing that used to attract a lot of people to Canada was the real estate market. The Chinese, Ottawa, you look at Vancouver, but the real estate got heated to a point that the Canadians had to bar foreigners from buying or speculating at some point before relaxing or tightening. I can't remember the new laws, but it's tight now. It's not as so.
You can't buy unless you are living there.
What is really playing out is that the Canadian currency is weak. A lot of Nigerians that used to send money back home, it means that you're going to send less dollar when you convert to dollar or the naira, it's going to be lower. It also means that if the heat keeps getting on, jobs will be lost because definitely, Trump has said that he's going to go all out. And we all know that the United States, just look at the Texas governor. He was saying that their economy is even bigger than Canada. So imagine if the Texas governor is threatening a whole country as Canada, compare that to California or Trump himself. So it's really going to be very, very tough for the Canadians to pull this through. But however, I think Trump is coming for a shocker, and I think there was some analysis. I listened to Davos. I listened to certain policymakers in Asia, and what they realized is that Trump had 24 years. So the tactic is, why don't we, if we can't definitely fight him, why don't we do it? Why don't we compound? Why don't we drag? Why don't we? Because Trump doesn't look like Trump is smarter. If you look at the Trump of first time and second time, Trump knows how to really carry the press. He knows how to really hit the points to the market. And I think he has been successful in bringing out his cabinet, despite some of them being controversial. So I think Canada, best, if I was the Canada Prime Minister, I'll look for an ally to really settle this cause with. And unfortunately, Musk doesn't look like a person that is suitable for that kind of job. I just wish that Canada and the US settle down because, Kalu, despite the advantage it brings for Nigeria, I think it's really going to cause so much uncertainty in the market, like we are seeing.
Yeah, so I think, but let's talk really about this. I think this whole tariff thing is people are looking at starting the story from C letter and not from the A letter. I think the main issue that no one is talking about is China. I think Trump and America's real issue is China. So what has happened in the last 4 years after Trump signed the United States and Mexico trade agreement, it was formerly NAFTA, then they signed a new one, is that China has built a lot of factories in Mexico. This is to allow them to then export goods from Mexico into America. Mexico exports 80% or so goods from Mexico into America. So what is happening is that because they have preferential exports, China can avoid tariffs by going to Mexico. And I think that was taught in the agreement that Trump signed with them. So I believe Trump is using these tariffs to force them to come back and sign a new agreement because they don't have to sign a new agreement. So when he says fentanyl, I mean, that's just a smoke screen, right? To say it's border, Canadian border is safe, It says fentanyl, he closed the border, they have to come back and sign it. And that signing agreement, they're going to pass what they call rule of origin, right? Which means that if you're Chinese and you manufacture in Mexico, it will be tagged as a Chinese import into America, not really a Mexican import into America. In which case, you get taxed differently from if it was a Mexican import. Before, you saw, was it GM or Ford? Ford was going to set up a factory in Mexico before Trump got inaugurated. Trump threatened them, if you set up a factory, I'll tax you 100%. They stopped. Same thing with John Deere. John Deere was going to go to Mexico and build tractors. Trump threatened them with 100% tariffs. They pulled back. So I think his real issue is China. I think Canada and Mexico are, should we say, the collateral damage. And the math doesn't favor them really. Mexico is exporting 80% to US. Canada is about 70%. There's bravado, Twitter, people are for and against this tariffs, but there's bravado and there's reality.
Yeah, but
it will affect everybody. I agree with you, to affect everybody. But if they tariff 80% of your exports are nearly 30% of your GDP. That's going to really hurt your market. Really, really going to hurt you.
But look at what is really happening. So what you said totally is on merit, and I totally agree with you. But you see, the issue about markets is that they see Trump as a bully. Now, there was a survey that was done in the UK by the UK government itself, and they said that Donald Trump is the worst person, even among the conservative, the liberals, and the independents. Now, if you look at France, Germany, they see Musk and the Republican administration as a threat.
This is talking about dining society. We're talking about a good relation. We're talking about France.
Go ahead.
Hold on to. So the key here is that while the merit is there, the concern is that it's really hitting the market. And the reason why I raised this up is that if you look at the way the market has reacted from Friday to today, you see that the contagion has been escalated in such a way that it might lead to something that we might not foresee. And another thing is that you said something very important here. His main target, everybody knows, China, because look at what China declared. The budget surplus, one outstanding record, and most of it came against the United States. But Khalu, the honest truth is that Joe Biden didn't reverse the tariffs put in place by
China. He left it alone.
He didn't reverse it. So I expected that while he was against. While he was trying to hit China, he should be tactical with his allies. The fact that you want to claim you had the harsh phone call with Greenland, the French is already threatening that they are going to support Denmark, which we know is almost impossible to fight the United States. But that kind of thing happening where your allies are threatening to face you is, I think.
But Trump is a bully, right? And we know he doesn't have the temperament to be, should we say, a chief executive. We know that. But that doesn't take away the maths. You can't hide behind the fact that he's a bully. I don't think he personally has the temperament, to be the leader of the free world. But the point is, he has tariffed you 25% on your exports. Mexico exports 80% to the US. So you're going to pay 25% on 80% exports. Canada is about 70%, 25% exports. I think you have to come to the table. If somebody abuses you, if a big man, you're with your girlfriend, and some guy, some muscular bully, or comes and abuses you have to make a calculation. Do I fight for honor and get beat up, or do I look for a tactical way to retreat?
That's the rational. That's why I'm having issues here, because you are talking from the political side. You're talking from the way it should. But the reaction the market is seeing is that the fact that you're using tariffs this early to trigger market, because look at the outlook of what Morgan Stanley was saying to their rich customers, because wealth management customer, Morgan Stanley is an American bank after all. Yeah. Why was Morgan Stanley saying diversify from US stocks? Because they said, if you look at the third paragraph of their template, they were talking about the fact that tariffs will trigger inflation. When inflation is high, you are saying that you want the US Fed to keep interest rates low. You already undermine the independence of the US Fed. So, yes, I really agree with the fact that he's fighting for US interest. But sometimes you need to understand that the US interest is not the world's interest. Okay. And the world also is not just a push aside like before. Despite the fact that the US and China has a third of the world economy.
And let's just go back again to history, just to understand where Trump is coming from. Let's just go back. When Trump renamed that mountain Mount McKinley, keep that in the side. Just keep that aside. Google that guy, that mountain guy, right? In the past, in the United States of America, tariffs were the number one source of revenues to America. Tariffs, not income taxes. Today, it's the personal income tax that's the number one source of income to America. The personal income tax in America is a very, very recent tax. It came in 1913. 1913. It only came, they only allowed the IRS tax Americans because the guys that wanted to stop the drinking of alcohol in America, they were a very, very formidable party. They allowed states to tax personal income taxes so that they could stop the sale of alcohol. That's how Americans got personal income taxes. That is today number one. Trump's long-term goal, and this is the thing that they believe in, right, is that they want to replace income taxes completely in America with tariffs. So that if you're an American, you don't pay income taxes. But if you want to import things to America, you pay income taxes. How do you avoid a tariff? You set up manufacturing in America. People forget that before, in the 1970s, there were no Japanese factories inside America. America placed tariffs on Japanese cars. What did Japanese guys do? They went to Alabama, to North Carolina, to Texas. There's Toyota, there's Mazda, there's Nissan. They are all in the South. Same with Korean companies. There's Kia, there's Mercedes now, there's BMW. They are all in the southern states, all producing cars and have all avoided tariffs. This is the long-term plan that Trump is saying. So look at how Trump wins this argument. If he taxes you and you tax him, he tariffs you, you tariff him, what happens? Americans will go buy the cheaper products, which are, of course, made in America or a substitute. But if you move your industry to America, you avoid his tariffs, then he would boast that he has created jobs in America. So either way, he's going to win. And it's not to say he's a bully. He has the market. Nigeria cannot afford to do that in West Africa, because if we do it, there's Cote d'Ivoire, there's Ghana. But what if Nigeria was the quote-unquote number one preeminent market in West Africa? To say that anything you produce in Ghana or Ivory Coast or Burkina Faso, any bean you produce in Burkina Faso, if Nigeria is not buying, you are not selling. Nigeria will do the exact same thing Trump is doing. We won't do mean tweets, but we're going to do it because we have the power. You know, people, there's nothing like free trade. There is no nation on earth without tariffs. None. They all do tariffs. But Trump is abrasive. Trump, he's tweeting about, I want to buy Canada, 51st state. So he rubs people the wrong way. But what he's saying is essentially, he's saying to the American taxpayers, I'll reduce your... People are saying tariffs are going to make prices go up. But people forget that when those prices go up, it allows an American sell the same product in America. So
yes, but America, Carlo, the argument here is that America is no longer America in terms of the middle class capacity.
But they are still the richest economy on earth. Yes, the per capita is still the highest. The richest, the poorest Americans, only the poorest American state has a higher per capita income than the European states. That's Louisiana.
I'm not disputing what you're saying, but this is where I'm breaking in for you now, where things have changed, where economic influence are changing, and that's where the Europeans. Because I listened to Davos and I try to look at how economists are weighing on this tariff, and I look at the pros and cons. You know what the Americans were even saying is that what Trump has forgotten is that China produced 200 million households in the upper middle class, not lower, upper middle class. Now let's do average household, man, woman, child. That's 600 million. These people average it because their capacity is so much that Louis Vuitton, a tenth of Louis Vuitton's revenue came in from China's shoppers. Now, so what I'm trying to bring in here is that, America definitely has that 26 trillion capacity, GDP economic per annum capacity. Nobody's disputing that. But it's no longer a free lunch like before. And the fact
Olumide, let me ask you a question. If you are BMW, or if you are, forget the Chinese, if you are BMW, where else in the world can you sell your cars apart from Germany?
The US now, cars US.
Okay.
I didn't want me to land the boat. The problem here is that, Carlo, if you was fighting only China, I tell you the truth, it would have been more like, see, Carlo, it's not just fighting.
But it has to come. Olumide, remember that. Remember that.
Canada to one state.
Olumide, he's trolling. This is how Trump. He's trolling.
But wait, I'm not telling you how Europeans are feeling, because I read their papers. Carlo, I read Financial Times. I read the Telegraph. I read conservative papers. So I get to see the perspective of the Europeans and their writers. They see Trump as a word bully. I'm like, yeah, you guys are strong, but you can't just ride us on. And that's why I'm saying that he's going to have issues with carrying his policy, because when you are fighting your friends to prove a point, I don't think it's wise enough. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, let's dimension this thing clearly, right? Trump has no trade policy with China. The policy that America has with China is that it's one Trump told that they have to buy more American products, but they have no policy with China. The point is this: the only trade agreement they have is with Canada and Mexico. So he can't fight China directly. He's already fighting with China to say you have to buy more American exports, right? So now he goes to Mexico and he says, look at what he's doing in Panama. Is Panama Canal not owned by Panama? Why is he going to fight them? The same thing, Chinese influence in Panama Canal. He's saying that the Chinese are coming to Panama, and one way or the other, it's rubbing off on the control that America has over the hemisphere. There's an actual American doctrine, I think it's the Mondale doctrine, that America will control the entire American subcontinent. Montreux doctrine, exactly. So this is not Trump. Trump is just abrasive. It's because he's an abrasive guy. So he's a bully. I'm not. So how he's coming against this thing looks like he's bullying. But Biden did the exact same thing without mean tweets. Obama did the exact same thing. Obama tariffed China. Biden tariffed China. Trump has tariffed China. But China found a way to go to Mexico and Canada and invest and avoid the tariffs that were placed. So what Trump is trying to do, what America is trying to do, is to force these two countries, Mexico and China. Notice that it's not a tariff to EU. He's forcing them to come back to the table. They're going to pass what they call rule of origin, which means that even if you go to Mexico and you assemble a car, the same way, listen, come to Nigeria. When we were passing the African Continental Free Trade Zone, Nigeria refused to sign, because Nigeria said that if you sign in the African Continental Free Trade Zone, China will come to Africa, set up a factory in Benin, and export goods from Benin to Nigeria. Nigeria refused to sign. And Nigeria held up signing till the very last minute. But Nigeria did not have the power that America had to force them to change African Continental Free Trade Zone. That's why it was moved from Abuja to Ghana. The headquarters was moved from Abuja to Ghana. We lost the headquarters because Nigeria refused to sign. That was under Buhari. But the point Buhari was making was that if you don't pass this rule of origin, foreigners will come into Africa, manufacture and export to Nigeria. So Nigeria would lose market share and competitiveness. The exact same argument Trump is making with Mexico and Canada. It had nothing to do with Mexico and Canada. It's China. But they are flexing. You can flex. Like I said, if I'm with my girlfriend, you want to come and bully me, you have to take a strategic decision. Do you fight? Or do you just say, hey, I'm not down for this, and you leave? You have to make a call. If you fight,
Carlo, please, can I chime in when you're done?
No, go for it. Go for it. I don't go for it.
Okay, Carlo, thanks, right?
Hold on, please.
Let him just talk. I said you could talk. I'm done. Let him talk. Yeah.
Yes, you totally make a lot of sense. And what I'm just trying to input here is I'm giving you a perspective of how the outside world is seeing it and how the market is reacting. Obama deported 8 million illegal immigrants. He didn't make noise about it, but he's still one of the highest deported. In fact, it was called deporter in chief. The problem we have with Trump is that he makes a lot of noise, and his noise gets into the papers. And you see, those things isolate Americans' friends and their interest. I want people to see that in that way, because when you're investing, you need to understand that perspective. Because if you look at margins this year, why we say American companies will likely suffer this year is not because America's capacity is dropping. It's because America's interest in the zones they control is plummeting. Let me give you an example. Apple. If you look at Apple's earnings, if you look at what the Chinese is the strategy they do, because they are taking advantage of America's Buddhism to take control. That's what I want you to see. I'm not disputing about the strategy, Carlo. I'm looking at the effect, because our discussion is about the market and how the market will react.
Okay. Okay, let me chime in here. Carlo, thanks for having us. There is a very, very intricate link between politics and economics. Carlo, I know you like to talk about economics alone, right? And the last phase you held on this, strictly on this Trump issue, you always said, leave his attitude, leave politics, let's talk about economic and policy. But both of them are strictly linked. So these countries are democratic countries, right? And you sit down here and you threaten them. You want them to kowtow, right? And how will they secure votes of their people if they kowtow to you? That is one, right? If Trump thinks that the trade agreement they signed, or diplomatic whatever agreement they signed with Mexico and Canada was being round-tripped by China, he should come out and see it so that he will be reasonable. But for you to hide behind fentanyl and say, oh, fentanyl is pouring in from Canada, that's why we will do this. Carlo, is dangerous. It's extremely dangerous. Do you know why? See, the world will decouple from America and join China. No matter what will happen.
Not going to happen. It's not going
Belt
to happen.
and Road Initiative.
It's not going to happen. It's not. Let's stop this. It's not going to happen. I'm not stopping you. I'm just commenting over here. I'm not stopping you.
You know, it sounds as if it's impossible. Let me. Trump cannot come up and say he's been the smartest president to lead America. There is a reason why other presidents in the past have tried to pull coalition to say we will jointly push back against China. China is a force that it has to take extreme technical diplomacy to push them back. If you bring it economically, they will run you down. Do you know why? Because they produce over 60% of what the whole world uses. So how will you rival them? They will pull down, they will crash prices of everything. Look at Huawei. Huawei have built their infrastructure from bottom to top without America. Think about that. China can decide to subsidize things and come in. The point is, these guys should not destroy Monroe Doctrine, because you need your neighbors. Despite how big you are, you need your neighbors. If the world decouples and face China, in fact, Europe are already on the brink of doing that, right? If they decouples and face China, I don't know where America will turn over from. And a ton of American income is outside. How do you explain it?
Yeah, but the point is that, again, let's go back to, again, you see, it's difficult to talk because Trump is a bully, and the way he runs this negotiations puts everything into perspective. He makes it personal and it turns into a bully. But look at it this way. First term, what did he do? He said let's negotiate. It was called NAFTA before, right? He called Canada, he called Mexico. Let's negotiate NAFTA. They said no. How did he make them renegotiate to USMCA? He tariffed them. They came and negotiated. It has worked before. Today, EU today puts tariffs on Chinese cars. The exact same thing Trump is doing. Has anybody complained about that? I just read today. Let me just, because so EU today has also put tariffs on grain as well. The exact same thing Trump is doing. The difference with what Trump is doing is mean tweets. That's the only difference, my brother, with what Trump is doing. Mean tweets. Obama tried to negotiate NAFTA. They did not let him. Who else came after Obama? Tried to negotiate NAFTA. They did not let him. It's because Trump did gra that he wasn't renegotiating NAFTA. And even the NAFTA, now the USMCA has a deficiency. He wants to fix it. Didn't Trudeau come to Mar-a-Lago? Trudeau came and he told him this. He said, this is what I want to fix. And Trudeau did not agree. Same thing with Mexico. He sent his guys to Mexico, to Sheinbaum. He talked to her. She said, okay. But have they agreed? No. If they have agreed, there would be no tariffs. Remember, these tariffs have been telegraphed since during elections. He has telegraphed tariffs since during elections. Are you saying from that time till today they could not reach an agreement? The man is he's a very, very simple man. He has said you are letting products in from China. Okay, what do? You go back and you say, okay, we're going to pass rule of origin. The exact same thing Nigeria tried to do in NAFTA, in AFCTA. He's not asking to invade Canada. He's not doing that, is it? This point we're making of move to where? America is the largest market today. You want to? Who else would buy a Chinese BYD car? Give me the nation. No other nation, even Europe as a continent, does not compete with the market size of the US. Till the US loses the market share, then what you are saying will come to pass. China today cannot survive without exporting to the US. That's why they have $3 trillion in reserves. They have to export. Their economy is built to export. But US is enjoying free cheap TVs from China, so both will suffer. But who will suffer first and more? Premier Xi.
The American people will suffer first and more.
Premier Xi has just become a premier today. American midterms are 2 years away. Whether they suffer today, but who will vote first? Canadian elections are in December. Is it in October? The Canadians will vote. In October. Midterms are 2 years away. So, strategically, he has them where he wants them. They are going to vote in Canada in October. So, I mean, this is the same way I argue over things in Nigeria that are rational. I am a rational guy. If you are president, you have to say, I will lose, I will gain, but ultimately, what is best for the economy and my vote? Right now, Trump is winning. His mean tweets, but he's winning. You've got to.
I have a question. I have a question for you.
Sorry, before your question, I just want to add one more point to this. While Carlo technically 100% is right, I'm not going to argue the facts of that. But remember, the people that are going to feel this tariff battle are the American people that voted for Trump.
Not true. Not true. That's not true. Not true.
From Mexico.
Not true.
Food-wise from Mexico. How much of American food is coming from Mexico?
Not true. This is the point the media in America has made and has not clarified. In the first tariffs, who paid the tariffs? It wasn't Americans. Who paid the first tariffs? The Chinese government and the Chinese companies paid the tariffs because they were afraid they would lose market share. Google it. To the farmers. Yes, but who paid?
Why did
where the money coming from? American people still you give
No,
money to the farmers.
no, now you just made it.
Nigerians,
No, now
the Americans.
Because farmers could not afford
guys,
to do whatever they were doing
guys,
before because of tariff. Carlo, let's not.
guys, slow down. Okay, now I didn't mute you. They muted you. Maybe. Okay. Okay, but the point I'm trying to make is this, right? In the end, it's a plus minus, right? When the first tariffs, Trump took money from China and gave to the U.S. farmers. The American consumers did not pay. When you hear in the press, if you pull up any U.S. press, they'll tell you tariffs are a tax. People will pay the tax. If it's so, why is Canada imposing a tariff? So that means Canadians will also pay that tax. Mexicans also pay the tax that Mexicans and Canadians are imposing. It doesn't make any sense. You can't. You stay in one place. If tariffs are a tax on your people, does it then mean that Mexico and Canada are imposing a tax on their people to fight Trump? Stay in one place.
You guys will meet us. You guys will meet us and expect us to
sorry. No, but the discussion here is about markets practically. But
no, let's talk. I think tariffs are the main, are the big thing now. I mean, the whole market, so they are reacting to.
I'm waiting for the market to open. Few hours now.
It's going to open down. I'm looking at this. Opening down already. The market's opening down.
That alone is impacting because the average Nigerian listener is like, how is this argument?
So, so question for you: how does this tariff affect Nigeria? Let's come to that because Nigeria is the next port of call, right? Teke, essentially, we're not stopping.
Can I just ask? I want to ask you one question. I want you to explain to us, please, before we move to Nigeria, right? Carlo, why do you think the U.S. government will call their allies and say, come to negotiating table, let's negotiate about this, and they refuse? Why?
Because
don't you think because they have alternative?
No, because it favors. I'm answering your question. The Mexican peso today is stronger than the US dollar. Mexico's economy has grown in recent years through remittances and through foreign direct investments from China. There's a word now in Mexico called onshoring. They've grown their economy because if you are in Mexico, you can avoid US taxes. So Trump and America look stupid because they passed a law that says if you are in Mexico, through NAFTA, in quotes, you can export into America. All that country said, okay, we're going to take advantage of that. Remember, in Nigeria, there's a company in Nigeria that does pineapples. The exact same thing. They came to Nigeria, planted pineapples, and exporting the pineapples free of charge to America. That's what's happening in Mexico. So Mexico doesn't want to give that up. If Mexico taxes Chinese companies in Mexico, the FDI flow to Mexico will go down. That's the point. So it favors Mexico to retain China, not America. Mexico wants to eat its cake and have it. Let the Chinese guys come to Mexico and manufacture cars and components. Then we export duty-free to America. Then we grow our economy. That's why Trump is saying subsidizing Canada and Mexico. That's the point he's making. The NAFTA agreement, because you don't pay taxes when you import to America, is an implicit subsidy on products moved from Canada and Mexico. That's the point, is it? He's just saying it in a very, very brash way. But his point is making stands. That is why Biden is tariffing China. Obama also tariffed China. You can't take that point away. Let me just guys speak. Kunle, let's do Kunle, Teke, and see you. They've been here. Let's just get them to speak, and then we'll just maybe go. Not to answer how these tariffs would help a Nigerian investor waiting concern us in these tariffs. So Kunle, Teke, and see you. Kunle, go ahead.
You see, what we're saying here is the aftermath of 80 of useless legacy media, these mainstream bastards, the CNN, where Nigerians like. They've been mis-selling the Trump. Trump is not even a bully. I don't agree that the man is a bully. The man just doesn't use sugar-coated. He goes straight to the truth. Oh. They're not the teach person. I won't talk much. They're not the teach person. Colombia begins thief. They talk nonsense. Trump say, okay, I dash you 25% tariff. But by next day, they come to the table, they beg. They're not the teach person. You go see what you go happen to Canada. Crazy, they worry about Canada. That XL pipeline. Correction. Nobody say crazy they worry Canada. The misfortune Canada has had is that Trudeau and these globalists, these bastards that are running things in the background. It's not Canada as a country. It's that influence of these socialists, I don't know what to call them, this World Economic Forum, all the people backing Trudeau. I know Trudeau don't fall now. Like you said, they're going to do election very soon. And they will have to answer to the people. So what we're saying here, all the resistance people are giving on this debate, really, there's no debate here. US remains number one by the special grace of Almighty God. What China was trying to do, you see, China has been at war with the US for 30 years. It's just that they never declared that war. They've been stealing intellectual property from Silicon Valley. Every goddamn thing where China do today, they take out from America. So, and what has happened is they now collaborated without telling anybody. They collaborated with America's elite. You see this BlackRock, you see all these Hillary Clinton, them, all these Pelosi, them, all these pala people. They colluded. They moved American manufacturing to China. That was a catastrophic mistake. And what Trump is doing is bringing back 100%. Well, he won't get 100% now because the wages in America are too high. So, but he'll get back at least 50% of American manufacturing. Real people, not be everybody think go university. Not be everybody sabi book like Kalu. So, he gets some mans when they say in a factory there's a big. You go and carry all those factories, you go dash China. Even Apple's iPhone is made in China. All this nonsense. Nike, made in China. Everything in America, made in China. Why? So, you see, it's time for common sense to return. And that is what Trump is doing. Let the media, let them spend the last 8 years discrediting the man. When they know they can't go bring 120-year-old boy, they say they want to shoot the man. People are so biased against this man that the bullet will miss Trump, kill person for back. They say a lie, they say a fake bullet, they say that Trump himself that he arranged the assassination. Nothing where Trump will do, where they don't go talk saying a lie. Just wait. This thing won't take 2 weeks. Canada will come to their knees. Let me end my talk there.
All right. Let's get take it and see you. Yeah, take it. Go ahead.
Yeah, like I said earlier on, yeah, most of everything you're saying, I don't disagree with. But the one I want you to at least Since you've come here, vacationed here, you've stayed extensively, you've entered the grocery store, you've seen how people live. You know that even a slight fluctuation in price for consumer goods, instant consumer goods, I'm not talking your TV. To me, TV is a luxury. I'm talking about this most silly thing as guacamole, orange juice, the consumer goods, egg. All of a sudden we had bird flu. A crate of egg went to $9, no joke. From the $2 that we're paying about less than 6 years ago to $9 because of bird flu. This is the direct impact I'm talking about when it comes to slightly and pinching and tweaking with consumer goods like food products that mostly Canada and Mexico, especially Mexico, brings into the United States. When they found out that some of the increase that we're seeing in our inflation was because Texas was intentionally holding the food trucks coming into America until the Biden administration threatens them and let those food trucks come in without additional stress and paperwork, and all of a sudden things started coming and dropping down. The food prices are dropping.
Okay, but the question, take it. Since you're going to think us that what is the driver of inflation in America? Is it food? It's not food. It's not food. Food is not a driver. Food is very, very cheap in America, with or without imports. It's very, very cheap in America, with or without imports.
Tell that the families that believe on 2 weeks.
Let us talk officially. No, let's not pick opinion.
You see, this official, that's the problem.
Then how can we talk now? How can we have a discussion if you deny the facts? The facts are that food is very cheap in America, and it's not a driver of inflation. In Nigeria, food is 51% driver. In America, it's not. It's healthcare. Healthcare is not imported. So it's not going to drive inflation.
I have a question for you so I can understand what you mean by food is cheap in America. Are you talking about the situation where Dangote went to Bloomberg and said Saudi America still pays a lot more money for fuel, and so therefore Nigerians are not paying enough for fuel at 1,100 per liter, and so therefore it should almost double? Are you talking about that kind of comparison that things are cheap? I want to understand what you're saying.
I am saying if you take the wage of an American and you divide that wage to the largest heads, you would have rent, you would have healthcare, you would have transportation, you will not have food. That's what I'm telling you. Food is less than 10% of what the average American spends his wage on, with or without tariffs. You can Google it. So it's not so. The eggs will go up, guacamole will go up. We're not arguing that, but the cost of food, everything will go up. But the share of the budget of the American household that will spend on food is not what's driving inflation. Rent, healthcare, these are what's driving inflation. So again, we're going back to this. Is why we say Trump has got this right. But to the Mexican economy, where will they be hit more? They are exporting 80%. And export is 30% of their GDP. 30%. It's like come to Nigeria and you reduce our exports by 1% of crude oil. 1%, we'll feel it. 1%.
We'll go sick.
What are you talking about? So again, Kule was using a lot of swear words, but in the end, it's numbers. I think Trump is a bully. I would not go like this how he has done, but he is right. If you export all your manufacturing, in America today, there's a company called Boeing. Boeing has got guys that work and make the planes, the guys that do the manufacturing, that screw the parts in, then it's got the managers as well. Do you know that if America had been going the way it was going, Boeing would have been manufactured in China, and then you have managers in America. Now we're saying, make the planes, the goddamn planes, right here in America. Make the shoes in America. What will happen? The price of the shoe will go up, Abi, because it's made in America, so the price of Nike is going to go up, right? But what's the other part? Americans will get jobs and the wages will go up. You keep on forgetting the other is a balance sheet. If your costs go up for locally manufactured goods, that means an American in America salary has gone up.
Can't put a timeline. Can't put a timeline to it because that's where the problem is, right?
It can't happen. It can't happen.
If you are going to move your factory, kind of your own factory, your own factory, you are going to move it from China. You're going to close it down in China and move it to America. How many years will it take you to?
It took Apple less than 2 years now. It took Apple less than 2 years to move the factory. They moved something from Foxconn back to America. Remember? What about Ford that is moving from Mexico to America? How long did it take them to move? Less than 2 years. Remember that America already has the factories, but they're mothballed. It's not like Nigeria is not setting up a new factory. It's not America. They already have Ford in Michigan. They already have GM in Michigan. But it's not operational.
So I will end my submission with this. I will end my submission with a practical example. Hold on, let me end my submission, then you can continue.
Let me
end my submission, then you can continue.
Yeah, Izzy, go ahead. Take it, go ahead. Izzy, let him finish. Take it, go ahead.
Carl is saying that food is a small portion of American.
Carl is not saying, the data is saying.
Okay, the data is saying no wahala. If it didn't matter, McDonald's will not go back to the drawing board to find out how it can bring back its $5 menu. Because an average meal in McDonald's had risen to above $9, $10, $11.
I'm not arguing that food will not.
Because you're
arguing
thinking
that
the
food.
impact is not that much. No. I just agree with that one. If McDonald's can go back to the drawing board and decide that they will bring back a $5 menu,
take it. You're not. Take it.
Hold on. I think you're missing the point. Let me explain what he's saying. So, for example, if you look at the components of inflation, if you look at America, France, UK, you find out that food is the lowest. Where rent, medical bills, utility, transport is usually higher. And just look at it. I don't know where you stay. If you stay in Europe or in America, the least amount of where your budget is not, the money you spend on rent, unlike in Nigeria, for example, the average Nigerian spends officially more than 60% of his wage on food. Does that happen? So that is not an argument. I know where you're coming. So what you're speaking about is that, even at the fact that we're spending least on food, it still looks like it's expensive because there are a lot of unemployed people in Europe right now, immigrants, and the fact that the economy is going under stress. So junk food now seems to be a substitute, and McDonald's definitely is one of them. So a lot of people are the franchise is considering bringing those things, and that's why you get €5 burger. But what Carlos is really saying right now is that America will feel when it comes to food, it's the least of America's problem, which is totally right. Let's move on because we're talking about markets here. Because the truth of the matter is that what the Nigerians are feeling on the space here is not really the political angle and everything, but what it happens with our money. If you look at the stock market, for example, for me, if Dangote was listed, Dangote refinery was listed in the stock market, by Monday, and I've told my broker to just increase my buy because, like I said earlier,
to increase what? To increase what?
Buying pressure on Dangote refinery. Increase my buying pressure. If Dangote was listed, the refinery was listed, I would have bought more shares because Dangote is the heavyweight of our export. Remember that.
But it's not listed. It's not listed. So help us now. If I'm a Nigerian guy, I want to invest, and there are tariffs all over the world. Where should I put money? Which Nigerian company is the?
If you look at President Tinubu, before the election, I did just different analysis on each candidate based on readings from investment banks and understanding of each candidate. I found that Peter Obi was someone that we liked. Education, the service sector. So those are the sectors really enjoy. I look at Atiku, I look at agro, look at tier 1 banks like Zen, Benefitia. But when it comes to Tinubu, because his workings in Lagos State, I found that construction was strong, and also the fact that he really placed emphasis on energy. Now, if you look at the stock market, the best by far is the energy sector. In fact, if you're a blind man and you invested in any energy stock,
before immediately President Tinubu won the election, if you put in 20 million, at least as we speak by now, you should have 35 million in any of those stocks. And the reason is simple, because we've seen the reforms in the energy sector really translating to concrete something better than what we were saying before. And the fact that Dangote Refinery also came to the pipeline boosted downstream companies. You look at Coin, you look at Eternal. So a lot of people have missed the boat. When the problem with people is that they only come to invest when the noise is aired. But that's not what investing is all about, because you have to buy at an attractive price, whereby when there is market correction, you are still in money. Because don't forget that the reason you're investing is you want to make money, not because you just like the company or you want to.
So Limde, just to be clear, you are saying that as a Nigerian, because of the Tinubu's focus on real estate, is that what you're saying? Real estate and energy. The
reforms to the energy industry and Dangote on the pipeline has helped energy stocks, and that's why energy stocks have done so well. Zeblat has been my own alpha and omega, because this is dollar dividend. And if you look at Zeblat in COVID, Zeblat was 495. Now Zeblat is over 5,000. Do the math, even with the dollar, and they'll be paying dividend. Then you also look at Total. When President Tinubu came in, Total was less than $300. Now you look at Total. Last time I checked, above 600 naira. Do the math. Look at Coin, look at Tenor, look at MRS. So look at Wando. Wando was a $5 stock when President Tinubu won the election. Now Wando is above 60, so you've really done. So the question now is, how do you tap in now? Because if you are thinking of tapping in, you are kind of a late comer. So you should be ready to suffer if you buy in at the premium, because market definitely will correct. So we are expecting Dangote Refinery to this. He said first quarter, but I don't think that's happening, because there are a lot of things that has not been done. I've been asking investment bankers, and there's no information that shows that Dangote is listing this quarter. So I'm probably looking at it's going to list. It's going to be end of the quarter. But having said that, I think another dream box has been the banking industry. The last time we spoke in your space, the banking industry we spoke when people are debating, right issue, the stocks are already too high. Hey, this is Kalu. It has never happened in the banking industry where 4 stocks hit their all-time high.
Whoa.
From GP to Fidelity to FCM, and to UBA. And the context here is that you see, Nigerians need to understand something. Our economy is not correlated to the stock market, and I'll explain these things to you. I've always explained this to people many times. You say, but that is not right. I explain. You see, the Nigerian economy, the Nigerian stock market is suppressed. It has a foreign downgrade, and the fact that it has strong fundamentals tells you that you are buying at probably a good price. Forget this, return on equity, all this quantitative analysis. It helps. But the truth of the matter is that if you're investing in the Nigerian stock market, you need to understand the cycle and the fundamentals of this stock. Now, if last year, some of these stocks dipped, so it gave you opportunity to enter, like windfall tax and things like that. GT above 16, FCNB, Kalu, you've already made at least 50%. And interestingly, some of these banks were even there were insiders buying, like in November she bought some Fidelity Bank stocks at 15 naira. This was open. Nigerians will know. Now when the stock is now you don't want to buy. How do you want to buy something that is already 21? It's not like the stock cannot get 25, but you should be ready. If you be ready to take that shock when the market corrects. So the truth of the matter is that the banking sector has blessed Nigerians. The stock market in January, Kalu, made 2 trillion. Last year, 22 trillion. The year before, 2023, 11 trillion. The US stock market in January, you lost about 2.5 trillion. The downside in NVIDIA wiped out. But what my argument is that, as a Nigerian, it has shown that if Nigeria gets it right, if our politics, if we get, and the country is united, I tell you the truth, the 130 companies that is presently existing in the stock market, will definitely mean a lot of successful, because many of these companies have strong fundamentals. Many of these companies still have strong room to grow, but they are constrained to the geopolitical uncertainty around the economy, which somehow has really capped their market value. Because how do you explain a country of 200 million people, Carl? How do you explain a country of 200 million having a stock market less valuable than Dogecoin, a meme coin? How do you explain that? So these are things that we need to look at.
Okay, just to be clear. So I had real estate, I had energy, petroleum stocks. I also had banking. That's what I heard from you in terms of the way the Nigerians should look at in terms of that's what you're saying that's what has gone up in the past, right? I know Dangote is Nigeria's highest non-oil exporter because we count urea as non-oil exporting. Dangote exports urea fertilizer to the US, right? Will this, it's not even quoted, so there's no point even discussing it. It's not quoted, so we can, even if the answer is yes, there's no way we can get exposure to that. But what about Dangote Cement, Olumide? Let's just come to Dangote Cement. Just as a side note, we're talking about Nigerian stock market. Dangote Cement is going down in price.
Yeah, the popular gist, I remember.
What's going on?
Yeah, so Carl, there was a popular comment I saw on Twitter when the person asked me that Dangote seems to be sleeping, the stock seems to be sleeping, and I said that the liquidity provider is not awake. You know that the stock is heavily concentrated in the hands of Dangote Industries, which is indirectly Africa's richest man. And I think it's a safe bet because Dangote, despite share backs and the stock at some point was growing, and when Femi Otedola at some point disclosed interest in that business, the stock hit and it became the most valuable. But there's this Chinese brand, I can't remember the name, that bought in. So the cement business is getting a bit competitive. Then we also have marketing inefficiency in that space. The stock is not that liquid. Our market makers in that side is not really at optimal. So you also have price inefficiency. But the fundamentals are still strong because it definitely has a stronghold in the economy in terms of the fact that the Minister of Works is looking at cement, building with cement roads. Look at the roads here. So we have the fact that if you are coming into that stock, you need to look at the price you're coming in and what might be the shock. I think anything between below 250, I think it's safe. Personally, if you look at the fundamental of that stock and the fact that margins eroded slightly, because you look at their most recent result, it wasn't as amazing as we used to see in the past. So foreign exchange losses, but I think that will have reduced now because the FX market is stable. So Airtel Africa now is the most valuable company on the stock market.
So what we're asking is because you know that Nigerian stock market, I think for 2 times in the last decade, it was the best performing stock market in the entire world, and this was driven on the back of Dangote Cement alone.
But Dangote has lost that. Now there are a lot of interesting. So can you see that times have changed? Look at Iridium Energy alone, for example. Iridium Energy has minted a lot of returns for investors. When it listed in November, that stock at some point it was moving above 600. It now dipped to as low as the 300 bottom levels, and people that are bought in would have gotten about 40-50% at least. So we have exciting stocks that have come to play. Transpower. Look at Transpower too.
Transpower, very great results.
These are heavyweights. These are big weights. So Dangote is no more the darling that used to be. Oil Foods came in some years back. So we have decent names that are also grabbing attention and are doing not so bad. So you also need to look at the fact that the market is expanding. But I'll say this for you. You can't want to bet against Dangote. You don't want to bet against him. This is a man that definitely is exposed to almost all sectors of the Nigerian economy. So if you are someone that owns that stock, if your losses are less than 30%, I would still say that give it time, But you must have an horizon. Dangote stock for me, when I'm moving Dangote stock, I used to have a longer horizon. Unlike bank stocks, for me, bank stocks within 6 months, I get in my targets. I look for other adjust and things like that. So yeah, it's a very good.
But just to dive, do you know the actual reason what's happening? Because his revenues seem to be going up slightly, but the net income is falling, net margins falling, PE ratio is up, meaning the stock is getting more expensive. It's just 10% of the shares are being traded. He owns 90% or so. So, is it the cost? What's going on with the company? Is it that the cost of manufacturing is now high, or people are not buying cement?
I don't know. It's not like people are not buying. We've always know that was meant that compare our operational expenses, and operational expenses has been on the high, and at some point projected losses. But like I said, those things it seems to be stabilizing, And if you're looking at the stock market performance, it's heavily influenced by Dangote.
He's borrowing a lot. I mean, the company is surviving on debt.
Yeah, I feel like Baba doesn't have time for this talk here, doesn't he? So I feel like that's why I said that.
But it's the largest company in Nigeria. It's all these things are.
It's not much largest.
It's not much largest scale.
In terms of market valuation, Boa Foods is big as Boa Foods has a 7.4 trillion.
So let me put you on the spot.
I don't think that's from revenue.
No, I just mean, let me put you on the spot, right? So should we buy this company? Debt is going up, no cash. Just he's laying a lot of debt and there's no cash flow flowing into the company. Dangote Cement.
Yes, that's why I own Dangote Cement, for example. But the price I got it, I got it less than 200, so I can hold it for pretty long period. So it depends on where you came in. But buying now, I'll ask the question. I ask you why you buy now, because there are stocks that will definitely give you faster return. Look at the insurance space, for example. They are consolidating. The stock have been growing fast. People that invested in first quarter 2024, then they already maintained at least 3x. There was the best performing stock in 2024 was an insurance stock. So there are stocks that so pension funds really like that stock because it's stable. You don't see it fluctuating like you see penny stocks. But for people that are not heavy players, it's not so liquid, So I would say that stick with liquid stocks that you can really accept the price is attractive.
Well, let me just make a little bit. I just pulled up Boa Cement. It's the same thing. Boa Cement, huge. They are operating huge debt. There is no cash flow to the company. Net margins down. Net income muted, revenues up. So they are making sales, but cost of sales is very high. They then borrow to keep the company afloat. This is Boa, this is Dangote Cement. So it's more like.
So if you're in the United States, if these stocks were listed in the United stock market, I'll say your analysis will make a lot of sense. In fact, maybe the stock definitely would have some. But these stocks are heavily controlled by few entities, and just very few. So all your analysis will not really hold water in the market here. That's the honest truth, and that's where a lot of people make mistakes here. Because you see, the reasons why we do quantitative analysis for us to evaluate intrinsic value, right? So return on equity and discount cash flows, all the things is just for us to get the value of that price. But when you understand about Nigerian markets is that the inefficiency in the Nigerian market make those models very unrealistic. So while you understand the concept should be your guidance, not to be the map. So when I say guidance and map is similar, but when I mean guidance, something like to give like the touchline. But the map is the price. So you look at the fact that, okay, for example, if it is the value of Fidelity, say, it's telling that the value is around 17, I see Fidelity trading at 15. And you look at the fact that, okay, Nneka is buying Fidelity at maybe 17. I'll override that intrinsic value analysis and I'll buy because insiders buying has been, for me, it has been 10-10. All the insiders buying that I bought in 2024, I didn't lose money, So I didn't lose money because I bought immediately. And finally, Nigerian stocks are slow. So let me give you an example. A lot of people say GT, when GT was having service outreach, the stock didn't react because you don't understand GT. GT is heavily controlled by FPIs, foreign portfolio investors. So they are not really particular because, and if you look at the fact that retail participation in Nigerian banks earnings is not as high as people think it is. So many of these banks are diversified to treasury management, commercial banking. So when the windfall tax hit, you could see that banks stocks suffered. But when there was service outreach, so you need to understand the fundamentals of those stocks before making an analysis.
What's your stock you're looking at? I mean, this is January. I'll have limited answer. Let me get in. We're gonna have CU, then share, then just an Ori Keze.
When you talk, I was looking at. I think we spoke in your space, and I think was very exciting for me was MTN, and because I knew that was MTN. We spoke about it early in the year when we were doing. Rather, remember your space, and I gave you the reason why I was really sticking with MTN. And for me now, I think most of the good names. But another stock, two stocks I'm looking at, which I'm really interested in, is Transpower and Nestle. Transpower because if you look at the last 5 years, 6 out of his almost all the companies has listed has done remarkably very well, has returned good returns to the shareholders. Transpower newly listed. President Tinubu is really concentrating on reforms in that sector to. If that sector hits big, I heard that the African Development Bank give them some loan to expand energy assets. Definitely, I see Geregu and
they've paid off those loans, so they've paid off their dollar loans.
I heard that they got a new loan for electric. They got new loans for to build electric infrastructure. You did hear about it?
No,
I can't remember the amount. The African Development Bank they just got that last week. So
that's about 1.5. I think it's about 1.5 million. It was last week.
So that's bullish for them.
Yes, exactly. So that's why I said I'm looking at Geregu and I'm looking at Transpower. Geregu has solid business model, very good. But the valuation to me, I think Transpower is more attractive in terms of valuation, and also the fact that Transpower, their latest earnings, their result. I think you posted the result was remarkable. This is an entity that is exposed to debt where people owe a lot of they don't pay bills in time. So the fact that this company could really bring in such amount of, I really think deserves. So I'm looking at those two. But after that, Carlo, I think I'm just waiting for Dangote finally.
Gotcha. So Transpower 1 year about 32%. But the key thing where I like Transpower, if you combine Transpower, and I think they have another company owned by Tiolumelu, two of them at the power sector. If you combine those two guys, they own about 30% of the power output in Nigeria. So any way you cut it, if Nigeria is going to grow, these are going to be the fuels, the leading indicators of that growth. So if you want to buy Nigeria, you're looking for an index. This is basically an index for you, because no way Nigerian economy grows to 1 trillion without the Geregu, Transpower fueling that growth. Same thing with banks. So in Nigeria, utility companies pretend that they are growth companies because they have that growth something pumping them, right? If you buy a utility company in the US, it's just dividends. But if you buy a utility company in Nigeria, you're actually getting capital appreciation with your dividend growth. So look at it that way. If you are bullish that Nigeria is going to achieve $1 trillion market size, as GDP size in 2030, i.e. 5 years from today, then of course your banks, your power, those builders of the economy, cement, those are the guys that are going to have to invest in, because the economy cannot grow without infrastructure, without credit, without power. And so those companies in that sector are going to be very, very key for you. Let's take a few questions, Lumide, so you can answer. We've got CU, then Sheye, then Ori Keze. So CU, you've got the floor. Go ahead, CU.
Yeah. Hi.
Thanks for holding on. I appreciate that. Sorry about keeping you for long.
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Kalu, that was a very great insight. Olumide, I like your expertise and knowledge in the financial markets in Nigeria, but unfortunately I don't follow the markets in Nigeria. I follow other markets. I just wanted to, maybe cement on what we talked about, the January and 2025 Economic Financial Review. First of all, I don't think nobody's going to decouple from the US.
Not happening.
If you look at, sorry?
It's not happening.
Yeah, nobody's going to decouple from the US, because if you look at some of these sovereign wealth funds, private pensions in Japan, a lot of them are buying into U.S. stocks, and maybe that's what's fueling the valuation and also this tech bubble that people are talking about. I don't think we're in a bubble, but in terms of trade, I find it very amusing that once you have a different view against trade policy, people tend to attack you for it. I have a lot of friends who have said what I wrote in my econ exam. It's very funny because I am someone who is for tariffs. Because I see what China is doing in terms of trade surplus, which is 0.1% of world GDP. But if you look at their own trade surplus as opposed to your own GDP, is falling. So you can see that there's some kind of economic malaise in China because what's going on in the economy with the housing market and the local government debt, which is about 60 trillion won. So like there's a lot of things that they have to export. And globally, I understand what's going on. You have to do that. And mind you, you did a study in 2016 where Americans asked if you're for trade or for not for trade. 53% of Americans said they are not for trade. In 1969, the U.S. had, exports as percentage of national income go up, but towards the end, started coming down. So the U.S. do not actually have to trade with anybody. It's more of a luxury. They are more like closed economies, such as Japan. And Japan and US are more closed economies. And also, I think tariffs are very good. I think US sectors are not, especially the auto sector. I've seen a lot in Detroit. We need a lot of industry, and that's why I like Trump. I think he will bring business as well as deregulation as well. Some of these sectors in the banking sector, for example, people don't do deals in private equity anymore. Like it's very expensive. The bid offer spreads are too wide. Like nobody wants to do this because the Biden administration have really heightened these M&A restrictions as well. And lastly, my point is, tariffs will also help Europe as well. I watched Davos a lot when it happened, and I just find it funny where people are screaming about tariffs, but the business executives in Davos were very optimistic. Bring deregulation, bring this, and actually people say it's not going to help, but it will actually help Europe because they're growing at 0.8% GDP. Germany is tanking, UK is tanking, they're below 1%. So if you actually do have these tariffs, what does it do? It incentivizes them to increase production or reduce regulation in certain sectors such as AI. Imagine Europe don't have any AI, but they have deregulation of AI. Make it make sense. You know what I'm saying? So they need that. It will actually help them, have a very strong capital markets union as well. And also do something about some certain sectors, like Germany, auto sector, which was the backbone of the economy in terms of exports, down. What do they do? They haven't adapted to, the EVs coming in. And mind you, when everybody voted against the tariffs in the European Union, guess what country didn't vote for tariffs from China?
Germany.
Well, Germany. So you know what I'm saying? This actually is a positive. People saying, it's not as inflationary, do not understand economics, or do not look at things such as they look at things in economics. They taught us ceteris paribus. They look at things as equal. Look, you have to account for this thing called optimal tariff theory. You have to account for things such as elasticities, demand elasticity, price elasticity.
That's the key word. That's the key word. Explain that for folks who follow. Explain that, please. So who follow?
So we look at demand elasticity or price elasticity of demand or whatever it is. It belongs. I looked at my economics notebooks. But basically, yes, if you have tariffs on imports, let's say, yes, on paper, it will be inflationary. And Howard Lutnick, the incoming Commerce Secretary, explained this so well. Yes, there will be price appreciation in some goods and services. However, what does this do? It incentivizes, because tariffs are not only taxes, but what they do is that they incentivize and allow industry to grow. And what does that do? The substitutes are then allowed, the companies who then have these substitutes are then allowed to increase production because these prices are not coming to compete with them again. People forget all these things. In 2018, we had the Trump tariffs. We had the China tariffs in 2019. We traded to the Trump tariffs in 2019. We didn't have inflation.
There was no inflation. Say that again. Say that again for the back. We had the tariffs. We
had the Trump 2019 tariffs
and
in 2019.
There was no inflation. Okay.
Also, even if you look at the tariffs now that they're talking about, Goldman Sachs have said we're going to have 2.3%. We're going to get to 2.3% PCE. That is close to the Fed inflation's target. So if the banks are saying that this is not inflationary, why are you buying into what these people are saying? I'm not trying to say, I support Trump or anything. I'm just looking at it based based on my background in economics and business, I'm just looking as a rational somebody that, look, if I am a producer and I'm seeing that the Chinese are in economic malaise, the Chinese are growing
overproduction.
Yeah, minus 4% disinflation in China, and I know that the only way they're going to get out of it is through export, because they're not going to devalue their currency, because the market has bearish sentiment on the currency, because of the friction in trade and because of the upcoming frictions in U.S.-China trade relations. The market has really divided currency, and the Chinese president has said that he wants to have a strong currency. If the devaluation of the currency, which they've always used as a mechanism to fight the Trump tariffs, which they did in 2019, and Trump was pissed. What are they going to do? They're going to export through industrial overcapacity.
Yeah.
So I have to fight China. As a manufacturer, I have to do my best to fight China. Wherever it is, I fight China. I make sure that they are not taking advantage of us. I'm not the reason why they have a housing bubble. Mm-hmm. We are not the reason they over leverage the economy over the years since they joined the WTO. So we have to fight China. We have to make sure that American workers, American companies are protected, and we have to make sure whatever means we use, whether it's tariffs, we have to make sure that's protected. That's my case. Whatever it is in politics, that's for them to decide. But in terms of the economics, in terms of business, protecting American businesses, we need to have the tariffs.
And let's use this example with avocados. So America produces avocados, a lot of avocados. Mexico produces a lot of avocados. But America imports avocados from... Hold on. Americans import a lot of avocados from Mexico because it's cheaper. So Americans decided, listen, we're going to import avocados from Mexico because it's cheaper. So American avocados sort of take a back policy. So what Trump is saying essentially is this: if you impose a tariff on Mexico, then the avocados from Mexico now become the same price as the avocados in America. So where will an American buy avocados from going forward if this is the same price? From the US.
Yes.
Should Mexico then sit down and say, because of national pride, we're going to lose the export of avocados? Avocado exports are even more than the one they do with the seed. It's not just sea export, the quote-unquote sea export. It's more than that. The cartels control avocados on the borderline. So will Mexico sit back and say, oh, because of national pride, we will lose our avocado exports because we want to punish, quote-unquote, the Americans by increasing prices on avocados for them? Doesn't make any sense. So there's emotions flowing around. I think in 2 weeks this thing will calm down. Look at the numbers, and then we'll say, okay, we're going to lose market share here. We do not want the Florida avocado growers to replace Mexican avocado growers, so we're prepared to come to the table. That's what's going to happen. But for now, there are emotions. But I think you've given us a good masterclass on this.
And disclaimer, I'm not a trade hawk. Look, I'm for free trade. I love free trade. I want free trade, but there has to be fair trade. There are tariffs on Europe has tariffs in the US in cars, and I understand like some Europeans don't like driving Jeeps. I understand, but we have to have some form of restrictive trade policy. That is it.
And again, look at it this way. Again, see, let's look at Tesla, China, and America. So you can't export a Tesla from America to China. China will tariff you out of existence. So exactly. Elon Musk went to China and built Tesla in China to sell Teslas in America. That's exactly what Trump is asking for. If you want to avoid tariffs, you go to America. The same way the Japanese guys and the Germans have built Kia, Ford, Mercedes-Benz in America to avoid tariffs. It's the exact same thing. It's happened before Trump was born. It's going to keep on happening. You avoid the tariffs. Olumide, go ahead.
Carlo, you always force me to interject. Carlo, how much will it cost you? What is the labor cost? What is the production cost in China?
But the labor cost is being paid to Americans. That's the point you keep on forgetting. American labor then goes up.
Not just labor,
the production cost is an income to Americans, Eze. The production cost you are quoting is income to Americans. So Trump will then claim later on that American wages are rising. Then taxes in America also go up because he's taxing the American workers. So it favors the guy that has the market, is it? It's still back to where we are. Sorry.
Yeah, but Trump confuses the market at times, but I'll tell you why. Look at TikTok. I was totally in support where the Joe Biden administration, where they decided that, okay, we are tit for tat, because YouTube, Facebook, I think it's only LinkedIn that works in China. And I remember that time when I was heavily exposed in Google, I was kind of surprised why Google could not penetrate a market like China. And definitely they also have some form. So I felt like it is for that. But see, Trump now used TikTok as a form of trophy. Because if you understand the fact that TikTok was, the argument is that it saves a lot of American data, sends it back to the Republic of China, and is owned by a foreign entity, which America frowns at foreign media having exposure on that foreign entity. But you came in and said, okay, they are trying to see whether Microsoft, Musk could ban. I get it. But the problem you're creating in the system is that you're going to, what Joe Biden said in the last speech. See, I'm not a Democrat. I'm just saying from a market perspective, because you need to look at the fact that we are looking at an oligarchy kind of economy. You mentioned Tesla, very interesting. Toyota sold 10.5 million cars in 2024. Look at the stock valuation. If you look at if you put Tesla under any quantitative analysis, you tell you that the best you can see that stock is $280. And unsurprisingly, I'm not surprised why Bill Gates is still shorting that stock. But the stock is over $400, Kalu. Now, why I'm bringing this question, I want to ask you this question, Kalu, because you need to understand why investors have to be very careful. Because what is a win for America might not be a win for you or a win for your money when you're investing. Because the point of contention here is where we put our money to get something much reasonable and smart about. Now, Tesla is trading at 400 at the peak of market. You are already working under the Doge.
Okay, but let me ask you the question. Can Americans export cars to China without paying a tariff?
That's what I'm saying. No, they can't. It's not allowed. That's why.
What is the issue?
The issue here I'm saying, Carlo, the issue here I'm saying is that when you confuse, he confuses the market. Because, for example, we already expected that after the Supreme Court said TikTok, if you don't sell it by January 19 to an American buyer, then it's gone. You now came said, okay, if you like for 5 days, you're now working with Oracle.
Yeah, he's a president. He saw that there was an opportunity there to sell.
Carl, do you know it made people see? It's affecting other stocks. Because I'm exposed to these stocks. That's why I'm telling you how investors are seeing it. Apart from Meta, which is just hit 1.7 trillion valuation, many stocks are suffering because of the president's inconsistency around TikTok. If you're going to say something, read it. You're saying, okay, you're a businessman, you're a politician also. You are the most powerful man in the world. What you say was powerful.
TikTok, his case is already done. The Supreme Court has already ruled on TikTok. He's not stopping the Supreme Court ruling. All he has said is to say, find a buyer in line with the Supreme Court judgment, or you'll be closed down. If they don't find a buyer, they're going to be closed down. He hasn't rescinded any orders. He has simply said,
he extended the.
Yes, he can extend it. He has said the ruling stands. Find a buyer, or the ruling kicks in. So all he's doing is giving them more time to follow what has been passed by Congress and the Supreme Court. That's all he has done. He's a businessman. He wants to create jobs. So Oracle wants to buy it. Meta wants to buy it.
The problem is that what they're saying is correct. But what Olumide is saying, I'm agreeing with Olumide. The guy cannot allow investors plan. He's all over the place. He started this TikTok.
He didn't ban TikTok. He didn't ban TikTok.
He started it when he came in the first time.
But he didn't ban them.
It's not good for Americans. The Democrats were supporting it. Blah 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 blah. Now so the problem is market needs stability, and this is what Biden was saying. Like I'm quoting Olumide, in his final speech. He said, "We need stability to plan." Carlo, you need stability to plan. If things are all over the place around you, you cannot plan.
I mean, but Trump tariffs have been there since his first time. He has been tariffing since his first term. So everyone knows Trump is tariff. He said tariff is the most beautiful word in the diary. He said it. We knew tariffs were coming. Everyone knew that. During the campaign, he said it. Even his political opponents said he's going to tariff. Everybody knew this was happening. So why are we? He said he was going to tariff, and he's tariffing. Let's go to who was next. I think we'll see you then. Was it Share? Please go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. Carlo, first thing I wanted to say is that I think you mentioned something about manufacturing, and you mentioned Apple. So the thing with Apple is when Trump had a discussion with Tim Cook during his first presidency about Samsung and all of that, the advantages they had. One of the key things Trump requested was that he start manufacturing. So he needed a political win, and obviously Cook gave him that. So one of their products, which is just a Mac desktop, which is not significant when it comes to amount of revenues, and each one sells for thousands of dollars actually. Only like major graphic designers or like people that create, do major movies that work in Hollywood who use such systems. They decided to assemble it in the US. So that one is the first thing. So it's not like a huge thing that they could do.
But it happened now. It happened under the man. Give him his flowers. Other guys didn't do it. He did it. Whether it's $1, he did it.
Fair enough. Then secondly, the problem with the way I was leading to with that is the problem is not just start manufacturing in the US, is that there's a large amount of skill deficits to actually do some of these things. I remember Tim Cook even himself saying that he could go to China and he could feel, doesn't even need to go to the whole of China, he could go to some certain provinces and he could feel football fields full of engineers that can like screw things or do whatever. Football fields, he can literally fill multiple football fields with people that could do that kind, that have those skill sets to screw the iPhones or whatever, to assemble them or do whatever, or manufacture the case may be. But he said that in the US, that the best he can actually do is to fill the particular room he was having that seminar or that talk. They said that's the best he can do, to fill just this room. So there's a skill deficit or skill parity that needs to.
So skill means that it can be learned, right? The same way China didn't learn how to build those things in 1 month or 3 years. It can be learned.
Which what you're saying still supports what I'm saying, because at the end of the day, to build those skill sets is going to take a lot of time. It's not a 2 year or 3 year.
What if you have robots to do it? What if you get robots to do it? You can be built by robots. America is very productive.
Yes, it can, but robotics isn't at that exact point right now. So it will still take a few years for robotics to
and it's not everything that has to come in, right, Shea? Not everything has to come in. We can say we can import phones from China and then build cars in America, right? Because we have the skill set to build cars in America. So not everything 100% has got to be tariffed, or should we say cannot be built.
But Trump's what Trump is aligning, or what he's putting forward, is that there's going to be a tariff, and that's how he's going to run the country, because
he said come locally and manufacture and no tariffs. He said that also.
No, he didn't say his point wasn't no tariffs for manufacturing.
He said it.
You pay lower.
No. He said, and I'm quoting him. He said if you don't want to pay tariffs, manufacture in the US. This is Trump. Quote, direct quote.
Fair enough, but what he was emphasizing on was that your corporation tax will go down for you. There's even a lower corporation tax for you if you manufacture in the US. All well and good. So the point you made about the car manufacturing that is going to Canada, that's something that relatively can be brought down back to the US, wherever Ford or wherever they had factories before. There are still skill sets that can roam between that, and that's just one aspect. So I think to me, my own opinion, what's happening between China and US is very, very simple. The US laid down the rules of the particular game, and they are now surprised that the game that they laid the rules down for, someone else is just beating them.
I agree.
Someone is just counter-attacking.
I agree.
So it's beating them, and that's what's surprising.
No, I completely agree, and that's the point I'm making with you. That I totally agree with you that it was Trump himself that passed the USMCA, right? Now China has done counter-attack and moved into Mexico. So Trump now realizes that he has to change that agreement that he himself wrote. I completely agree with you, but that is not enough to. All this talk about tariffs are good, tariffs are bad. Again, no U.S. company can wake up today and export to China without a tariff. So how come? Where is the outrage on Xi? Why is no one saying Xi is imposing tariff? No one is.
Hold on, I'm not even against the tariffs. I'll tell you why. I'm more of like, look. First of all, the reason why I like Trump personally is because there's always something you don't like about him. You cannot agree with 100%. Nobody can agree with 100% what he says. There's always somebody that's like, yeah, I like 95, but this particular thing I don't like, and that's what makes him unique. Everybody doesn't like something about him. So for me, I live 5 minutes away from Canary Wharf. The reason why I am okay with all the tariffs and every single thing is because it will make Europe, and when I say Europe, I'm talking UK as well, to sit up, because over here, the taxes here are extremely high. I know how much of my paycheck goes to taxes every month or every week when I receive my pay slip. I said, okay, there's no problem. I'm a Nigerian. I'm here. I make the best of what I can. But when I see the taxes and everything, I'm like, okay. So if Trump is doing this, there's no how that you can't keep on, in my own opinion, you can't keep on taxing to actually get money from people, because there's the consensus right now, local politics in the UK, that most people here don't necessarily push themselves to work. In fact, most people say, when you tell them that, oh, this job is giving you this amount of money, and they've even passed the interview, some of them do not want to collect that high-paying job because of the fact that most of the money will go to taxes, students loan, blah, 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 blah. That's really a thing here in the UK. So there's no incentivization for people here to even do extra and go and work, because once whatever work you put into the taxes, when you see your pay slip, you're going to be demotivated by it again. So, but if Trump is putting all of these tariffs and everything, and some of these companies that they export their things to the US, I'm giving an example of, let's say, Mercedes-Benz, that although it's in Germany, but they keep on exporting to the US to make much more money and everything. Fine, Mercedes-Benz might be able to come over this because their clients actually have deep pockets, but I'm just using them as a sample size still. That, okay, how much of the local economy within continental Europe can consume their goods? If the poorer people are, the less Mercedes-Benz can be consumed within Europe. And if there are tariffs going on in the US and wherever it is, then there's already there's rather an incentivization for Mercedes-Benz to talk to the politicians that are close them and be like, look, this is the problem we're having. We can't go beyond this particular level. This is what's happening, blah, 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 blah. You're taxing Chinese cars, there's no problem, but we need our people to I'm not using Mercedes-Benz as an example. I'm not saying exclusively Mercedes-Benz. So they can be like, okay, we need to allow our people to actually have more money in their pockets or whatever the case might be, to be able to afford the goods. And if you look at what the EU president, or what's her name again, said in the past few days at Davos and everything, now they want to incentivize capital for risk taking. They want to bring down regulation. All of these things. Regardless, all of this is going to take time to even get to the point where they can even be competitive, because as far as I'm concerned, the US hasn't, the EU plus UK has not recovered since the 2008 financial crisis. Because I think before the financial crisis, the GDP of both sides of the world were relatively the same. But after that, till now, the EU and UK did not recover. So it's more like I got
you. I don't want to lose trust. So it looks for me. I think that Nigeria might benefit more by exporting these raw commodities to China. I don't see how we affect Mexico, Canada, US, because apart from crude oil and maybe fertilizer, I don't think we do a lot of trade with those three nations. So Lumide and the rest, I might be wrong. But I think the real opportunity for us is maybe China. When the real tariffs hit China, perhaps they might look for external suppliers, and Nigeria could step in with commodities, soya beans, sorghum, and all that kind of stuff. I think that's where the opportunity is for Nigeria.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it's just the refinery for now. I think it's just going to, because Dangote will be expanding his market, and I think definitely you grab more market share, because the US refiners would export less.
But Kalu, allow me to make a point on this. Do you think at the end of the day, the prospect for Nigeria or the continent of Africa as a whole, do you think is that high? And the reason why I'm saying this is because, for example, when Europe, shortly before the Ukraine war, and even now the Ukraine war has been going on, there's been a deficit in energy, obviously, within Europe, and they needed LNG and all of things like that. One country from Africa, Mozambique, if I'm correct, for example, they were exporting LNG to Germany or to other parts.
Not yet. They have civil war.
They actually started already. The Chinese invested and all of that, and then they started exporting LNG. This for years, I think 2 years already now, something like that, if I'm correct. Although they've temporarily stopped it, and the reason why they stopped it is why I'm bringing up this point, simply because the country was exporting all of these things, but the country itself is not even benefiting. Just like the same way we can say Nigeria is not benefiting from crude oil or whatever. The same way they were not benefiting there, and then terrorism and everything sprung up, and that brought all the activities down to a halt. So if the politicians are just negotiating, because the reason I'm using Mozambique is because it's not exclusive. The Boko Haram or whatever we face because of
good point.
It's not exclusive to Nigeria. It's also exclusive to other parts of Africa, because if these guys the politicians are just negotiating deals to export all of our commodities and to get the country, but there is no direct benefit to the host communities where those communities are contained. There's still going to be a problem. You are just running in circles as far as
I hear you. I think it's a fantastic point you make, that, like Africa really, if you look at all the talk there's no linkage with Africa and global trade. We're just commodity suppliers. And I think we have to ask ourselves questions. How can we play a bigger role in this? We don't have to be that developed. We have Congo, cobalt, nickel, it's all in Congo. Without Congo, you won't have electric cars and all that. But still, like the point you're making, we are not investing locally in education. A lot of you guys are abroad, because if you stay in Nigeria, there's a Japa syndrome going on. So Africa is losing its most important resource, the people. They go out, they make the money outside the country. There's no investment back home. And I think somehow we've got to really ask ourselves those hard questions. Why is no one tariffing us? So it is really important. There's nothing to tariff in Africa, nothing to tariff. We're just out of the economic picture totally. There's nothing here. Nigeria exports cocoa, imports chocolates. Congo is a dead zone. They just got invaded by Rwanda just recently. Mozambique, you said civil war. Boko Haram is in Mozambique. And Nigeria with all the so it's a larger question that will kind of come on this. It's a larger valid question.
Just South Africa, just South Africa alone. Have that exporting capacity.
That's the whole of Africa, and maybe Tunisia and Morocco, I believe. Tunisia and Morocco, but they are Europe. They are Europe and all that. But it's a question for us to ask ourselves: that what's the capacity, even education, even if Africa had education.
That's why I tell people that if you are investing in Nigerian stocks, if you want to bet on Nigeria, look at people that are brilliant and have very good skill sets in managing money, and you might win in the long term, because if Nigeria gets it right, they are still limited. Look at what you just mentioned. If you look at Academy Press, it has a market valuation of less than 5 billion. 5 billion now. That's not even up to $3 million. And this is a major education supplier. This is a country that has the youngest population in the world. So if Nigeria gets things right, it means a win. So, like I say, people should, how you translate this to investments is that you look at sectors that really are growing. For me, I think that tariffs will definitely benefit the oil.
When you say this, I remember when you do all this, your tweets, where you say the VP's house is 21 billion, but Cadbury's, it brings me back to those tweets that you always make when you compare the how Nigeria spends money and the market capitalization. If we were simply had folks that could sit down and invest in productivity generating activities, then Nigeria would even be able to even cough. If Tunisia and Morocco can export cars to Europe, or even Thailand and Philippines can export services, IT services, offshoring. Why can't we do that? We have everything here. But it's just amazing that this is an opportunity. Will come again during the first Chinese tariffs. China wanted to buy sorghum. Guess the largest supply of sorghum outside the UK, outside the US and China. It's Nigeria, but Nigeria can't meet that demand. It's like palm oil and cocoa. We're just there, but our output is very, 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 very low. So there's points for us to ponder. Olympic Five Focus, someone's asking you, don't you think the energy play in Nigeria is almost overbought? Someone's basically asking.
Yeah, I think I said that I won't be surprised if market correction will be in play.
That's for energy. For energy, yeah.
Yeah, the energy sector because some have done like 8x, some have done 6. So I feel like. At some point you should cool, but it has strong prospects. You can't bet against them. Since the president has been in power, the energy sector has been ruling, with all cylinders. And also, I think another thing we we've not talked about the fixed income space. You know, if you look at last year, for example, a lot of Nigerians don't even know money markets. I'm so surprised about that. And you look at the fact that returns were as high as 22%. You know, so the fund, if you couldn't get into the treasury bill market 365 days, it was given as high as 26%, but it was really hot cake because you have to go through the private market. So most times, if you go to the secondary market, it's cut less, so you get like 21. So another way to get exposed is mutual funds in the money market. And most of these banks, they offer these services. So you see, I have friends that will keep in a couple of billions, and I was like, why don't you put it rather in money market and things like that? Now the FX has stabilized. You know, it takes me to this question now. We've seen stability at least in the last 2 months, and pretty much, well, one would say that it is still a bit high, but the stability is very important for business people.
Why do you think that stabilized? Why do you think dollar? Is the demand, has demand stabilized? Is oil output stabilized? What's the
from your horizon? It hasn't met your the stability requirements. Crude oil hasn't kept, but from you look at the ongoing CBN reforms, different reforms, just to restore efficiency and put credibility of that market. I think it has helped, to be honest, it has helped. And, the argument has also made that a couple of demand in FX demand is artificial. Then another thing coming into play is that the federal government gave a window where people have to put their funds back into the banking system without any issues. So we believe that if the window comes to an end, that will put pressure on the unofficial market. Then Dangote's refinery has helped reduce oil imports.
But he's still importing oil. I mean, the question I'm asking is that.
Yes, but can you look at the margins? Look at margin spread. Because, yes, the importing oil, but look at margins. You see, that's why I'm waiting for Dangote to do this. Because, he bringing 12 million barrels of, like, he imported 12 million barrels from US. But look at US, do the math. Nigeria's oil is even more expensive. So, for example, the US oil is WTI, West Texas Intermediate. Nigeria's oil usually sells at a much higher premium. It's even more expensive than Brent crude.
Okay.
So, if, for example, if Brent crude is $30-$80, Nigeria's Bonny is selling at $83. For Dangote, it's even cheaper business for him. Where I'm more concerned is the margins, and that's why I said that the trade is a way for Dangote, because if Dangote is exporting diesel, the margins he will get definitely with cheap labor. Labor is cheap in Nigeria. You can't compare what the refinery engineer is getting in Lagos compared to what is getting in Texas. So labor is cheap. Things he's getting that support. So I think it's a way for Dangote. So
all right. Let's get you guys to ask you more questions. We've got Michael, we've got Policy Guy, we've got EJ. Michael Ebikuta. Michael is not ready yet. Let's move to the Policy Guy. Analysis of Nigerian politics.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yes, sir.
So I was just talking, I wanted to talk primarily on the American situation that we were talking about before.
Go for it.
I was one of CU's friends that said he doesn't know, he doesn't understand Paris quite well.
You don't?
The first question I'd ask is, we've spoken a lot about Mexico, and, there are some merits to tariffs on China, for sure. Nobody has asked why Canada. So they said national security is the main reason. However, 0.2% of total fentanyl seized at the border occurred in Canada. So essentially, they're of negligible effect on the fentanyl trade, and human trafficking is a similar case. So Canada is one of the US's main allies, going back centuries, right?
Yeah.
I don't really understand the purpose behind the tariffs and what goal that was meant to accomplish.
Oh, it's because they have to negotiate the whole USMCA thing. Like I said, the issue is China, so they have to tariff Canada. So Canada and Mexico come to the table, and then they withdraw the whole USMCA. Yeah, that's what's going on.
So Trump wants to renegotiate something he signed himself.
Correct. So
that doesn't really sound like a continuity in kind of trade policy. What it looks like to international businesses is the president can choose to do something on one end, and then a couple years later he changes his mind. And,
correct. That's exactly what's happened, because like I think I laid it out before. There was NAFTA. The Americans tried to chip NAFTA. They couldn't. Trump came in and tariffed. And then the Canada and Mexico came to the table. They had USMCA. Now, after USMCA was signed, China then played this counterattack where they went into Mexico. And then they did a lot of factories in Mexico, which meant that if Chinese, quote unquote, Chinese or Mexican cars come into America, because they come into America, the parts that Americans use to make their cars in Michigan are made in Mexico. Now, China has bought or has invested in those car parts. So now you have Chinese inputs flowing into America with no tariffs.
In a roundabout way. Yeah,
correct.
I agree with that.
So now Trump now goes and tells them, hey, let's fix this. They said no, because Mexico is getting the FDI from China. So what does Trump do? He puts a tariff and he says it's because of fentanyl. We know it's not because of fentanyl, but he says it's because of fentanyl. So he says national security, allowing him to tariff. That's the whole idea. If he just can't tariff because he doesn't like the policy. When he says national security, he can tariff. With the tariffs, he can force them back to the table. Yeah, that's what's going on.
One thing I've noticed, though, is in your analysis, which is true, there is definitely a case for tariffs for the roundabout Chinese investment through Mexico. However, you've not mentioned Canada. I still don't understand.
No, NAFTA. NAFTA is Canada and Mexico. You can't negotiate alone with Mexico. It has to be all three. The trade is... So if you don't put in Canada... You know what? The first agreement, Canada refused to even talk, even with the tariffs. Then Trump and Mexico, the former President Obla, had an agreement. That's why Canada had to come and sign, because Trump was going to go alone with Mexico. So now you have to include all three. Otherwise, you can't renegotiate USMCA. That's why Canada is roped into the whole thing. Yeah,
that's fair. I would question tariffs as the only weapon of choice there. How about sitting down and negotiating?
I mean, we're not in the room with them, but Trudeau came to Mar-a-Lago, right? Trudeau was in Mar-a-Lago, which means they have been talking. So again, I'm trying hard not to look at it like I'm defending this guy, but Trudeau and Mexico have got to sit down and look at their economies and say, what is this guy asking for?
But Trudeau said that the White House didn't accept any of his calls for 2 weeks.
People are going to give all those back and forth, but the reality is what we're talking about here. The reality is that there is a trade imbalance with China. China is the issue, not Canada or Mexico. It's China. That's the issue.
When you phrase it like that, it's a little bit misleading, because if we're watching the news and what we're listening, and what the government is also saying is, I don't think Trump wants to negotiate. Yes,
the news is a bit biased, right? The news is a bit biased. On all honesty,
let me land, Carlo. If I want to negotiate, if you look at what happened in 2018. The similar thing happened in 2018. Now, what I'm saying is, if you want to negotiate, you can as well say, I am going to impose a tariff, come to the table so we can renegotiate the deal. If I'm saying to you, you're asking me, okay, what do you want? And I'm saying to you, it's all about the border, it's all about fentanyl, and I've also contributed, or rather, pledged $1 billion to improve the border security, and you still went ahead to impose the tariff, then it's really not about renegotiation. That's
let's talk like. So I get where you're coming from, but let's talk. Let's talk reality here. I've alluded to the fact that it's not about the border. It's not about fentanyl. Let's talk realistically here. We all know it's China, but if you go and you say you want to impose a tariff because it's China, you will not get that power. So Trump can say something publicly and in private say something. if you really drill down, this is really about status of origin issues in the USMCA. That's all it is. It was the same issue with the first Trump agenda with Mexico and Canada. Like he asked the question, why is Canada in there? If it's all about fentanyl, Canada wouldn't be there. So because Canada is in there, and you see Trump saying 51st state, this trolling, you can see where he's going to. You can see.
So let me ask you another question. Why can't the U.S. do a separate deal with Canada and a separate deal with Mexico? Same thing.
Because there's an existing. So in the first Trump remember that they had that Trump tried to do a separate deal with Mexico. Then Canada ran back in because Canada said we will not negotiate NAFTA. So Trump went to Mexico and said, okay, I and Mexico will do a deal. Then Canada came in. The same thing now. Trump wants to do a new deal. Both Canada and Mexico are saying we will not talk to you about a new deal. So he has tariffed them. So let's see where it's going to go. That's what he has telegraphed this throughout.
Like they had that conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to understand why the assumption though.
But it's all over he's been saying it throughout the campaign. Come and talk and I'll tariff you. He's been saying it.
So the concern, you're right. There's a loophole that the Chinese are using in Mexico. Even the Canadian government has also said the same thing. Listen, there's a loophole where the Chinese have factories in Mexico. It's none of our business. If you want to impose this 25% on Mexico, go ahead. Keep us out of it. If you want to renegotiate,
it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. I just explained it doesn't work that way.
If you want to renegotiate a separate deal with Canada, renegotiate a separate deal with Canada. What was his name? I think the other person that spoke, like he kindly said it. Like, what exactly does he really want from Canada? Like, I'm trying to understand.
So MJ, just because I follow a lot of all this, all these pages and forums, that's why I'm just talking from. They are, again, if you follow maybe Arsenal, right, and you follow the dressing room, you follow the intrigues, you would know a lot more. When you hear a coach wants to play this coach, but it's not number 9, you can explain to someone, no, this is not what's going on. It's because of this or because of this. You would know more. So what I'm saying is this, right? The issue, if you really follow the Republican, the MAGA, the whatever back channels, the issue is there's an existing agreement with 3 nations. That agreement has got to be cancelled. You can't just wake up and go and cancel with one nation.
Why does the agreement have to be cancelled?
Because of China.
Okay, go on.
That's why it's China. I just meant to China. China is in Mexico.
So here's my own take. You understand?
And we have to round this up. Let's round this up. So, I've explained it again. China is in Mexico, so you can't just simply go on to only Mexico. The agreement is with Mexico, Canada, and the US. So you have to have all 3 together again to have a new agreement. That's the point. It can't be bilateral. It's a trilateral agreement. So you can't have a bilateral agreement going forward. That's what he's saying.
Yeah, but if it's a new agreement, I could decide to sign a separate agreement with you. I don't need to involve Mexico.
But you haven't cancelled the trilateral agreement. It's still there.
Then that's fine.
It can't be fine now. You have an agreement, trilateral agreement already. You can't cancel that.
You're breaking the agreement by imposing a 25%.
The agreement says you can.
About?
Oh my God!
You're breaking that agreement by
MJ. Remember again, like I said, MJ. You can say something, but there's politics and there's reality. Remember he has used fentanyl as his excuse, but we all know it's not fentanyl. I'm agreeing with you. It's not that Canada doesn't have any fentanyl. He's using fentanyl because that's the way he can impose a tariff. To what end? To force them to the table. So if you keep on going to what he's saying, you will not get it. Go read between the lines. He has said it. He has dropped the hint. Come and negotiate what? He has told them. Set up factories in America. So what he's saying is that he's telling China, come and set up the factory and set up in Mexico, in America. And there's no. He's talking to China, not Canada, not Mexico. He has no. What is Mexico to him? What is Canada? Canada is 70% of exports go to America. Mexico is 80%. There's no fight here. This is not a fight. It's like me going to fight Hulk Hogan and you say, "Oh, I will survive." Well, there's no fight. You can't survive a tariff war with America. You cannot. So what they are doing now is they are also trying to push Trump by imposing tariffs on the Republicans in the Republican Party. So Canada has imposed tariffs on Tennessee, on Florida, to also put pain, so that when they eventually come to the table, they can also say, okay, we'll take away these tariffs and you will do this. They are all negotiating. They just can't say, okay, we agree. But they also will impose pain on America, so that when they negotiate finally, then they also get some concessions. But the issue, they all know, you will never hear it written out, they all know the issue is China. If there was no Chinese export, there will be no tariffs. Why does America care about a country that exports 80%? MJ, doesn't make any sense. They know what they are doing. Like we say in Nigeria, they know what they are doing. Let's get Emiloka Bright. How you doing? Olumide, what to is Bright still there? Olumide, Olumide Wolf.
Yeah.
We'll have about 10 minutes to go.
I think Nigeria, one of this space is always very easy engaging, is that you mix economy, politics. People like Nigerians like politics, and I understand that it's really interesting. But for me, I just feel like whatever the politics, like you said, America will win. And
unfortunately, you don't have Olumide, when I post dollar, it's just people always come and say, why dollar? Let's do it. You see, France has called the US dollar an exorbitant privilege. It's not fair, but it's reality.
Exactly. Kalu, I stay in France, for example, and like 70% of my income comes from the United States, because I used to tell people, you cannot say you work in the financial industry and you don't have exposure in America, where you are really still struggling, because that's where the money is. That's where the market is. There is no company that will pay you like, yeah, you're right. But the end game, Kalu, the honest truth is that we have to look at the fact that the world is changing, and America should also be a bit soft in their strategy, because all the things you said, Kalu, it makes a total sense. But look at it now. I'm losing money on Monday. The stock is good back deeply. So now, Kalu, you are speaking from American interest. We Nigerians that invested in this market, who gives a hoot about?
Okay, let's use Nigeria. Let's use Nigeria. Everything Trump has done, Nigeria did. And Nigerians on this space that are arguing against Trump supported the Nigerian government. Everything down to the tariffs, down to the closing the borders, down to the deportation of illegals. Everything America has done, they copied it from Nigeria. If I can do it, maybe just I'm being silly here, but just look at it that way. Because in the end, every nation has got. If America has the advantage, they are using it because they have the advantage. There was a time when Mexico was stronger than the American continent, and they used their own advantage too. So I mean, in the end, it's not fair. On my space, I try to explain but so if you want to forget what this press in America are writing, tariffs will make taxes go up, tariffs will make taxes come down. It's not. You have to understand really what is going on. If Chinese people wake up today and say, okay, Mr. Trump, we are going to invest $500 billion to build a Chinese city in Tennessee, this whole thing will go away immediately.
To be honest with you, even with this tariff wars and everything, the West can never align with China. It's a popular thing. It can never, even with the tariff wars and everything.
But didn't EU sanction China just now? Didn't EU just put tax on? Why isn't anybody calling EU names? Ben. Yeah, sorry.
You know why? You know why? It's just like,
no mean tweets.
You know why? You can't compare Arsenal with Real Madrid, for example. So, for example, Real Madrid, Champions League. So, we all know that US is the Don Jazzy of the global
Trump
economy.
Is brash. Trump is a bully. Exactly. Yes, he does mean tweets. Yes, that's why people pick on him. But the same thing he's doing is what EU has just done to China. There was no news. Nobody said EU citizens are going to pay more in taxes. Nobody has said it today that EU will pay more because they've tariffed China.
The first president that put us in this space, look at what's happening in the mid space, for example, now. Many Nigerians are not happy. In fact, if you call Trump in the mid space, they can stone you because they've lost a lot of money.
I don't think Trump cares. If you're investing in America, you are exposed to the American market. That's just the honest truth. But again, ask yourself, if you invest in Naira, and what's the difference differentiation. If you invest in Naira, invest in dollar, where are you getting your benefits from? That's your only answer. And if the dollar is giving you inflation protection, then take the mean tweets and go to bed. You can't, in the end, you've got to, why are you investing? If you want to avoid inflation, that it comes with mean tweets. If you want, no.
Yeah, but we like safety, Kalu.
Tinubu has no mean tweets, but inflation is 33% in Nigeria. You can stay with Naira. It's your call. Both are legal. Yeah, Ben. Olivia, don't fall into trouble. Let's do Ben. Let's get Ekun. Ben, what's on your mind?
Yeah, good evening, guys. The conversation has been a very interesting one. I have some, questions, some NGX questions for Olumide. But before that, let me just say some few things about, China, US, Canada, and Mexico. The first things first, I think on Monday we will see the true nature of the tariffs, because I'm hearing some people say that there's going to be an exemption on energy, on oil and gas. I'm hearing that. I don't know how true that is. I think Trump was asked about this in an interview. He said on Monday we'll find out. So a lot is going to happen on Monday. Let's see. So China, I know everybody is so happy that, when you're on top, there's always going to be a large number of people that just want you to fall. America has been on top at least since the 20th century, when they overtook Britain due to their own. That was when they were going through their own China phase that China is going through now. They led the industrial revolution of that era and overtook Britain. So, and even on that, if you look at history, the main reason why China had a manufacturing advantage over US was because of Wall Street. Wall Street was pressuring US manufacturing. And then two, what they call it, wages, cost of wages. There was a huge labor movement in America. Jimmy Hoffa and Co. and all those guys with Longshore, all those big unions in America. It was a huge labor movement in America that America had to respond to and increase the price of wages. So the cost of production, negatively affected the manufacturers, and Wall Street put pressure on the manufacturers with hostile takeovers and all that, trying to sway the Fed to focus on their sector. That's this Fed should move away from the real sector and focus on their financial services sector, which basically happened, and a lot of manufacturing jobs lost, a lot of companies closed down, a lot of US investors that wanted to invest in manufacturing had to go to countries like China and other, Asian countries to set up factories with their cheaper labor that came at a cost of human rights. People don't always talk about this. There are factories in China that they're using children that there's no education, they didn't go to school, they just put them in the factory to be making Nike shoes and all that. A lot of human rights violations going on in China. China is a place that they only show you what they want you to see. It's like a little bit more liberal version of North Korea. Obviously, we don't say anything for North Korea, but China, when China has a nice video, and they have some of their nice technology videos, they will bring it out for us to see. Nobody ever sees any bad thing, any bad news about China, because they will not show you. They will only show you what they want you to see, So China is very hypocritical generally. That's the point I want to make. They want to sell to everybody and not buy things from people. They, like on the topic of EVs, when Tesla came out before them, before this BYD and all these guys, they tariffed him and forced him to come. Now Trump is doing exactly what China has been doing. And people are just being noisy just because it's America. America is the bad guy. Let America fall. Let China come on top. All these people, all of you are wishing for these things. Like, I'm just going to ask you, are you sure you really know what China is? Are you sure you really know what China is? So it's very funny.
Let's just put a few facts. I just looked online now. So the Canadian dollar has fallen to its lowest level. The US dollar is rising. So just for the folks that are, the US dollar is going up. The Canadian dollar is going down. Let me look at the peso. What the answer is going to be. You don't have to wait for the markets to open. You can look at futures and see where the market is going to go to. Stocks are going to come down, but the dollar is going to go up. Why? Because when you import and export, it affects the exchange rate Not just stocks. It will shock the exchange rate immediately, then pull through to the stocks. So this is an unnecessary fight, if you ask me. The fight is unnecessary. Why suffer for one day what you can? I mean, Colombian guy was smart. Once he saw tariffs, he pulled back. There is no need for this fight. There is no need. It's like you have a small store supplying ShopRite. Then ShopRite says, before you come to ShopRite, you must wear yellow. But you hate the color yellow. You say, no, I'm not going to wear yellow. Oh, my dead body, I wear yellow. What's the fight for? Wear yellow and supply your goods to ShopRite and move on. It's not everything as a fight. That's the point I'm making. You cannot fight with an economy where you supply 80% of your exports to, or 70% of your export. It doesn't make any economic. It might make sense on national pride, though. I've seen Canadians now saying no more American products, only maple. Yeah, you can do that. Like when Nigeria closed border, didn't you see people on Twitter saying Nigeria is the biggest country in Africa? Yeah, you can do national pride, but your economy will suffer. I don't want to.